Sid and Friends in the morning.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We got Jake here, and we have another guest. We have Fernando Mateo, and no more Curtis bashing. My God, I heard nothing but Curtis bashing yesterday.
I have a bone to pick with you today.
What size bone?
You know what? You have this full-page ad here. When Sid is away, Cats and Friends, you have John, you have Judge, you have George, you have Jake, you have Noam. Where's Fernando Mateo?
Because you're on a flight. You're always on a flight to Miami. I don't know if you're in Miami. I don't know if you're in New York. I don't know where you are.
I would never miss Sid's show in the morning. To sit in this room where Sid Rosenberg sits every morning, I would never miss this, John. This is unacceptable.
Well, I'm glad you're here this morning, and
thank you.
The sun is going to shine, and we have a lot of things to talk about. My God! By the way, when is the longest day?
It was already.
It was yesterday?
Yeah, I think it was the 21st. Yeah, yesterday was the longest
day. It was the first day of summer, no?
Longest day, but it's the longest day.
Shortest night, longest day.
15 hours of sunshine.
Oh, boy, that means John's out in the street for 18 hours that day.
That's it.
Well, yesterday was Father's Day. I got to see all my children. My son, my daughter flew back all the way from Europe, and she had a conference in Salonika, Greece, at the Saloniki, with the people that from former Prime Minister Harper runs a group where all the European GOP types.
My dad was on Harper's Ethics Council. In Canada.
That's wonderful.
Good
Harper was a great prime minister.
He was.
And look, I got to meet Carney from Canada, and he's a smart person. And Trudeau was very bad.
Ruined a lot of the thing. Listen, I'm an American 7 generations, but my parents have lived in Canada for 30 years, and since Trudeau took over, the things they loved about it have started to disappear.
Well,
I got to get him back.
Let's hope that Canada comes back to normal. And like when I spoke to Prime Minister Carney, and I went to his event last week. There was an event for Canada last week. Tom Clark, the Consul General of New York for Canada, had an event. And guess what? It was the Canadians against the Qataris.
Yeah, in the World Cup.
Yeah. And I left because I was tired. But they were ahead like 3-0.
Yeah, I think they killed them like 6-0. But I tell you something, Fernando and I want to pound the table about something, because this is a real story about real people and real New Yorkers. Listen, the World Cup tonight is at MetLife Stadium. It's Norway and I think Senegal. 8 p.m. kickoff. I get it. Now, I get it. There's going to be a lot of fans going there. But by the way, let me tell you something. The New York Jets and the New York Giants play weeknight games at MetLife with more fans showing up there several times a year, and they don't shut down all of New Jersey Transit for everyone but the fans. They don't shut down many of the roads in New Jersey for everyone but the fans. I don't know if this is security or what, Fernando. I mean, I'm sure the cab drivers are going crazy over this. This is outrageous. People trying to go to work who live in New Jersey aren't going to be able to get home tonight because we have to shut down everything for the World Cup. Is it because of security? I mean, what is going on here?
They take the fun out of everything. They have to make a lot of people miserable in order to make a few people happy. You know, I understand FIFA has their concerns. I understand that this is an international thing. But you know what? When the Jets and the Giants play and the Super Bowl is going on here, it's people from all over the world that come to these freaking games. So I don't understand why we have to inconvenience so many hardworking Americans, okay, to basically please the whole entire international community.
Yeah, and I love how the cities say, and New Jersey says, well, if you can work from home, tell that to the short order cook. Tell that to someone who's a waiter. Tell that to someone who needs to be on site.
Who said if you can work home? Who said that?
The New Jersey, all the politicians in New Jersey, New York, saying if you can work from home today, especially if you're in northern New Jersey, you should stay home.
The planning has been controversial,
ridiculous.
Jake, the planning has been controversial. It shouldn't have happened. It happened. There's no excuses as far as I'm concerned. But that's what happens when politics gets involved in business.
Fernando, I have driven and also taken the train to New York Jets Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football games for years. And in addition to the Jets not being any good, it's just as bad. Driving and getting there is bad. But you get through it. You do it. You want to go to the game. So someone coming from Norway or Senegal can't deal with that. We're supposed to open everything up for them and inconvenience millions of people. This is really, to me, this is, I mean, look, I want the United States to put its best foot forward during the World Cup. It seems like we are, by the way. Have you heard about the way the Europeans are raving about all the things here in America, everything from ranch dressing to mayonnaise? They're loving it. The Scottish are having a great time. So that's great. I love it. I love tourism. But I'm not shutting down the economy so that they're saying like 26,000 fans are taking New Jersey Transit. Big deal.
That's nothing.
Half the stadium.
That's nothing. We should have security in place for that. There should have been better planning. You know, I feel bad for all these cab drivers that really are going to lose a day's work today. And I really feel bad for the hardworking people in New Jersey and in New York that can't get to their jobs. It's unacceptable. It's bad planning, period.
It really is. And look, folks, again, I would love to see the fans get to the stadium in an orderly fashion. But you know what? Welcome to the party, pal, as John... as Bruce Willis said in Die Hard, this is what it's like to commute into New York on a weeknight when there's a sporting event at MetLife Stadium. Yes, it's rough, but you get there in time. You have plenty of fun and enjoy, but don't shut down the whole city.
Listen, Trudeau was a socialist. Am I correct?
Who we're talking about?
The Canadian president. The Canadian.
No, he's officially a liberal.
He's a liberal, but he's to the left. He's to the left.
Absolutely.
You know, all these people that are losing on the left. It's basically helping everybody, the economy. Look in Colombia.
Yeah.
Colombia has a new president that was endorsed by Trump, right?
Yeah.
You know what he told the people of Colombia? The biggest thing that we have going now is the relationship that we're going to build with the United States. They are banking on the United States. In Ecuador, the same thing. In El Salvador, the same thing. They're all lining up to become America,
that's breaking news this morning.
To stop illegal immigration.
That's breaking news this morning. The Colombian election going to they're calling them a far. If you're not Che Guevara, then you're a far right person, according to the news media.
Abelardo de la Estrella. This guy they call him the Lion. He says he's gonna kill everything that's bad in Colombia. The same way Nayib Bukele did it in El Salvador. Salvador was the most dangerous country in the world. Today, it's the safest country in the world. No crime.
Well, we also have some other good news. I'm looking at crude oil right now, John. As you predicted, still falling, 75.36 to the barrel.
I predicted 65, and the war is not 100% over yet, and I think 65 is doable.
Yeah,
in a few weeks.
And we're at $3.92 a gallon national average, according to AAA. 32 straight days of gasoline price declines. Now, every single day it went up. The mainstream news media made it the top story. It's going up, it's going. It's been 32 straight days of the national average going down. Have you heard one thing on CNN?
Not one thing.
Not one thing.
But we hear it from the cab drivers.
Yeah.
Cab drivers,
they're loving it.
Cab drivers are getting a relief.
Yeah.
Remember, these people earn a living on the road.
Yeah.
And their biggest expense is gasoline. And they are happy. They're happy with Trump. They're happy with what's going on, and they're happy with the war ending in Iran.
63 cents less per gallon than you had a month ago today, and now only 94 cents more than on the day one of the war.
And you know what they're saying with the interest rates? Oh, the interest rates are going to go up. They're going to go back up again. That's a lot of crap. Somebody's lying to you. When oil goes down, when gasoline goes down, then I think you could have an inflation rate almost zero when the rate, when the gasoline goes down to, it could go down 250.
John, right now it's 6.5% interest rates for a 30-year mortgage. That's incredible.
Terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, we got to get that down.
Somebody is screwing somebody in this country, and Trump is trying to change it.
But, they also told us that the jobs were going to be destroyed by the tariffs. The job market has not only just been treading water, it has been really gaining in recently. You hear Larry Kudlow talk about this all the time here on WABC. The job market is much stronger than we expected, or the doomsayer said it was going to be. So we really have everything, I think, moving in the right direction, except for what you just said, Fernando. The mortgage rates, we've got, even if it, and John and I talked about this on Friday, even if it's 5.9999%, the psychological thing of seeing a 5 handle on there would really help. We've got to get this real estate market moving, especially we got to get baby boomers moving out of their houses, moving into condos or wherever they want to move into.
The average age of people buying houses the last few years was over 40.
I think 41, yeah.
Yeah, 41. And it used to be like 29 or what, 30?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's get back to that again.
Yeah.
I mean, let's make America, affordable again.
Yeah.
Home ownership is still a tremendous part of the American dream, and a lot of people consider that to be synonymous with the American dream. Some people think it's about starting a business. That's a great debate to have. But owning a home is really important, even if you're not even living in it. I for many years when I was at CNBC, there would be some younger producers there who would say, listen, we talk about on financial news all the time, you want to be a homeowner, but I can't afford it here in Brooklyn. I said, what about your hometown outside in Pennsylvania? Can you get someone to check in on your property? You can still get the advantages of an investment and the tax breaks of a mortgage, even if you're not living in the property.
The thing, what people don't really think about a lot is that when interest rates go down, the prices of your homes go up.
Right.
So you may lose it in one area, but you're going to collect the taxes in another area, right? So it makes sense. And if anyone could do it, if anyone has been in the real estate business, is President Trump. He's been, his whole life would revolved around real estate and interest rates and all of this. So he understands this better than anybody. So I'm sure this number's going to come down. His whole life,
in the real estate industry was revolved around interest rates, construction costs. I mean, he's a real businessman. Yeah. He knows what it costs. Now, there's so many things happening. Yeah. We got to find out what the truth is on the Straits of Hormuz right now.
Yeah,
I have a call out to some of my friendly Greek shipping guys out there.
They must be a little happy.
Well, let's find out what's really going on. I'd like to talk to them. And also, there's going to be a new prime minister in the UK, and let's get the right person to talk to.
Seventh one in 10 years. Can you imagine if we had 7 presidents in 10 years, John?
You know what happened? What happened is, what this prime minister was doing was not the pulse of the British people. Ugh. And when His Royal Highness King Charles went to visit President Trump, how did the British say it? We sorted it all out. And by the time the king got back, he doesn't have any official power, but the people of the UK, I think, have more faith in him than this prime minister.
Well, the migration issue has really put the final exclamation point on the ouster for Keir Starmer. I mean, the violence we saw in Northern Ireland, which of course is a British-controlled area, last week when someone seeking asylum basically cut the head off of a British citizen on the streets of Belfast, and they've had all kinds of mass protests. The people aren't being listened to, John. I mean, the people here in this country, for example, 80% want to see illegal immigration stopped. And you have an entire political party which is absolutely ignoring it, and you have parts of the Republican Party who still aren't getting behind President Trump.
Well, we got a big election. We got a big election on tomorrow in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a congressional primary that we're going to find out, the Democratic primary, who is going to be the nominee. I mean, we had in our studio on Friday, we had President John F. Kennedy's grandson, and he seems like a nice kid for the Democratic Party.
He did. Very young. He came off to me as almost, very, very young.
No experience?
Yeah, I mean, John and I have talked about the
fact. He's 33 years old.
He's 33.
Look at Mandami running the city.
And he wants to be better than his grandfather, President John F. Kennedy.
Oh, boy.
Okay. I mean,
listen,
nice kid.
That's not a bad dream.
No.
His grandfather wasn't a bad person.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I remember
I think Kennedy. As soon as Joseph P. Kennedy, JFK's father, had the stroke and couldn't bully him anymore,
he ran the country.
JFK's presidency was much better. He had the 1963 tax cut, which was a huge, huge boost to this country. And every tax cut since has been referenced. They referenced the 63 tax cut. He created the Navy SEALs. He did a lot of great things. The
Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, and he was tough in the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, he was tough.
Huge risk.
He was.
His father would have distracted him throughout that. Thank God he wasn't. And that was only 5 months after the stroke. So thank God his father was out of the picture. His father was also a bad dude. Brilliant, but a bad dude, let's put it that way. But speaking of those primaries, there's a controversy still brewing in the city, John, because at a rally on Thursday night, right after the Knicks parade and all the love and everybody is united, Mayor Mamdani goes to this rally in favor of these far leftist candidates, especially this Daraliza Chevalier.
She's running. She's running against Adriano Espaillat.
Yeah, who's a very, very disturbing character. Her latest thing is that she wants to remove the rule that stops convicted murderers and rapists from living in New York City housing. Imagine you're living in New York City housing project,
dangerous to
and
begin
all of your
with.
neighbors are murderers, thanks to this person. That's what she wants to do. But at this rally, Mayor Mamdani made an accusation about AIPAC. AIPAC is just another lobby out there. It's American citizens who donate money to support Israel. It's what it is. But according to people like Mamdani, he called them monsters. He said that they are supporting genocide. I don't know if you can get Lou my computer up. There's a sound going through there because I want you to hear. Okay, here's what Mamdani had to say. And people are calling this, even, by the way, Josh Gottheimer, congressman from New Jersey, is calling on Mamdani to apologize for this. This sounds like 1938 Germany. Listen to this.
Spend far more on political contributions than they would ever be made to pay in taxes. In AIPAC, for whom the only thing more frightening than democracy being allowed to run its course is an end to genocide and Netanyahu's wars.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and the crowd goes crazy. By the way, not a genocide. The Palestinian population has grown exponentially ever since the state of Israel. I mean, it's the worst genocide ever. I don't think people understand the difference between plus and minus. And it's also pretty much grown even since October 7th, frankly. This is outrageous. It's a real blood libel, and you have a major important rabbi here in the city, Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz, who is the rabbi of the KJ Synagogue on Park Avenue, calling this really dangerous. Fernando and John, 1 hour after Mayor Mamdani said this, a Florida man was arrested for planning a mass shooting at the AIPAC offices in Plantation, Florida. 1 hour afterwards.
Don't tell me that. I have a home in Plantation,
Yeah.
Florida. It's that's very scary.
The one good piece of news about it, Fernando, is that his family turned him in. So good on them. There should be an award every year for people who do this, because remember who turned in Ted Kaczynski?
Yeah,
His brother.
Yeah, exactly.
His brother David. So anyway, all I can say is that this has become a national story. A lot of people talking about this. I know if you've been listening to this station and you've been following on this, doesn't sound like anything that new from Mayor Mamdani, but it was, because previous to what I just played, he referred to these people as monsters. Monsters for donating money for candidates who support Israel? What's the big deal?
Listen, I support some of the things that the mayor is trying to do, like affordability. You know, you have to respect someone for that. But he knows how to really rally a crowd. You know, he's got that charisma. He's got a great speechwriter. And he reads and he speaks very well, very eloquently.
But
he's got a great smile.
What does
affordability?
What does Israel have to do with affordability?
Well,
Daraliza Chevalier is trying to run to be a congresswoman from the part of the
Washington
Bronx
Heights,
and part
and
Upper
Inwood,
Manhattan, Inwood, Washington Heights. I'm there, by the way, many times a year in Inwood and Washington Heights. We talked about that in one of your programs.
Yes.
I'm there all the time. What the heck does Israel have to do with the situations there? They need their stores reopened. They need those sidewalk cafes regulated.
Anything that's anything that's affiliated with socialism is against Israel. Okay, socialism is like a.
Is there a reason for that?
Well,
I mean, hold on.
Yes.
You're a Latino, a Hispanic. You're a Jew. Me, I'm a guy. And nobody knows who I am. I'm a Greek Italian.
Greco-Roman.
Greco-Roman. I mean, why is that? By the way, there was a chart last week that the wealth in the world. There's only. Did you see that chart?
I did.
I think I sent
you sent it out. You did. Yeah.
Why'd you send it to him and not to me?
15. Because you're here
You
today.
haven't been through the
tomorrow.
initiation yet. You got to swallow a goldfish and run naked through Times Square before you get initiated.
There's only 15 million
Jewish people in the world.
in the world,
Yeah.
and the wealth was number one, 15 trillion.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Well, a couple of reasons for this are Jewish people throughout history have had to keep their wealth mobile. One thing, they weren't allowed to own land in a lot of the countries they lived in, which is why there's a lot of Jews in the diamond business, because it's very portable wealth. Also, they find other ways to get capital that can move. You mentioned the number 15 million. Before the Holocaust, there were 18 million Jews in the world. So, happy spoiler alert, good news. Within 50 years, we're expected to be back to the 18 million, and maybe even in 100 years, you'll have well over 20. Almost all of them will be living in Israel, by the way, at that point.
But is it possible they're number one? And what was number? I mean, the rest of them were like way down.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with the fact that to survive as a Jew throughout all these centuries, you had to have some kind of portable capital. And portable capital grows very often even more than land. An agrarian-based society with just land can't grow that much by definition. Land is the one thing they're not making any more of, right?
When you say 15 million and they're worth 15 trillion, okay, that it goes to show how many people depend on the Jewish economy, on the Jewish community.
Is that the reason for anti-Semitism?
No. I think that when people chalk it up to jealousy, they're off the track. It's very simple. People who attack anti-Semitism, and people are going to laugh at me, absolutely has very little to do with the Jews. The Jews are the victims of it, but it's got little to do with what the Jews are or stand about.
Where does it come from?
It comes from a desire to destroy civilization and the rules. For better or for worse, the Jewish people brought the idea of a permanent morality and rules in the world. And if you want to destroy rules and you want to start murdering and killing and raping and get away with it, sadly, you start with the Jews because you'll get the least pushback. Then you can move on. It's kind of like the movie The Purge. If you want a world like that, start with the Jews because, again, you'll get very little pushback and then you move on.
We got to take a break. Yeah. I understand. 6:25 break.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'm Jake Novak, in for Sid Rosenberg. Sid and Friends in the morning. It's the Cats and his group are playing while Sid's away. I'm here with John Catsimatidis, Fernando Mateo. We're going to be joined by a number of other folks during the course of the morning. Also, this is really, I'm sitting in the room right now where the only one of two people only knows the story behind this. Yesterday morning on his true social media platform, President Trump posted a picture of our own Margot Catsimatidis with
sitting in Camp David.
Sitting at Camp David. Nobody knows what this is about. Even the news media, the New York Post, People Magazine, they've covered it, but they haven't explained it. I'm sorry, I've read through those stories six times.
We need to know about this.
Yeah, so John, but this is a classic tease, ladies and gentlemen. At 8 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on this program, Sid and Friends in the Morning, John's going to explain what the hell's going on here. I mean, that's really what we need to know.
It made worldwide news. I mean, nobody really knows. I must have gotten, yesterday was Father's Day. I must have gotten 1,000 reporters trying to call me. And I said, tune in tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
That's the savvy businessman. Fernando.
Well, stay on at 8 o'clock. I'm not moving from here. I came in for a few hours. I'm going to stay till 10 because on this show, you never know what's going to happen.
Well, it's
John.
Whatever this story is, it's a variation of the very famous Teddy Roosevelt quote. Doesn't matter what they write about you as long as they spell your name right. If I'm Margot, John, I think I like that picture. She likes the way she looks.
She looks great.
Yeah, it was a great picture. I mean,
it could be worse.
She's sitting in Camp David, but the picture, I'll tease it. The picture is, I guess 25, 30 years old.
Listen, a lot of guys are checking her out right now. I'll tell you that much. John, you better call her and make sure she's home.
Well, I think I look better now than 25, 30 years ago. But for most people, they like the way they looked better back then. By the way, a little bit of history. Camp David, as many of you know, that's the presidential retreat in Maryland, named after David Eisenhower.
Okay.
President Eisenhower's grandson. Naming it David Eisenhower. So that's a little bit of a story there about that. How that, and of course, so many famous stories coming out of Camp David. Most notably, the Camp David Accords, negotiated in 1978, signed in 1979, that created a peace between Israel and Egypt. And whatever you want to say about the Middle East, whatever you want to say about those countries have not gotten into armed conflict ever since. So it worked out. Although there's better peace now between, for example, Israel and the UAE and Israel and Bahrain. I mean, all of that is better, but still.
I think the president that used Camp David the most was Jimmy Carter.
He did.
In
only 4 years.
Yeah, as a kid, I always remember Jimmy Carter and Camp David.
Yeah.
That was like his second home.
Yeah. Well, we've had presidents now, like President Trump, who goes to Mar-a-Lago a lot. That's his official retreat. You've had presidents like Joe Biden, who was always going back to Delaware, that kind of thing. So Camp David for someone like Jimmy Carter was more of a necessity, to say the least. Hey, I want to say something a little bit about one of our friends here who contributes incredible news, not only to us, but so many other news sites, and that's John Solomon from Just the News.
Yes, the president has promoted him to more than just being a news reporter.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be basically like the czar. I'm making up this title right now off the top of my head. The czar of all the classified documents that prove or suggest fraud in the 2020 presidential election, because John himself, in his private capacity as a journalist, has come across so much of this, has been able to secure it, and probably nobody knows it better than he does. So he's going to be stepping aside a little bit from running that news site. I assume he'll unfortunately be a guest a little less often for our programs here on WABC. But anyone who watches him on his own television program, listens to his websites or his very frequent appearances on Cats and Cosby, will miss him. But it's exciting, actually.
I'm sure he'll still come on Cats and Cosby.
I hope so.
I
hope so. He's been. His website, Just the News. After you listen to WABC, you should check that out.
Let me ask you, Jake, are people still really interested in the fraud of the 2020 elections? Is that still, something that we need to continue to revisit?
Well, I think we need to revisit it because we're now dealing with legislation and battles over mail-in balloting. And as I say to everyone in America all the time, mail-in balloting, fraud or no fraud, is not legitimate. Mail-in ballots are not secret ballots, and you have to have secret ballots for legitimate election. So if we get, Fernando, significant proof that there was millions, literally millions, there were millions of mail-in ballots that were fraudulent in the 2020 election, or issued incorrectly, then hopefully that will help end the debate. But again, there shouldn't be a debate. Mail-in ballots are not secret ballots. And if you don't have a secret ballot, it's not legitimate.
Jake,
period.
That will never end. The Democrats want every angle they can get to win an election. And this is one of the tools that they use. They're not going to let it go.
Well, they're going to have to be.
It's like illegal immigrants voting. It's like illegal immigrants voting.
Yeah, this is like worth fighting for, though.
Or non-U.S. citizens voting, right?
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Well, I have a brilliant idea, Fernando, which I have given. By the way, I for free have given this advice to a number of groups throughout the country, not just Republican groups, but fair elections groups. Make a commercial with a big burly guy in a wife-beater T-shirt standing over his wife at the kitchen table as she shakily fills out the mail-in ballot, and he looks at her and basically gives her, the warning of her life. That should help end mail-in balloting. I want that commercial made.
Why isn't anyone listening to you?
Well, that's one of the great things when you come to that realization that because I have two daughters, and they're both. One of them is still a teenager, so I was a dad of teenage daughters for many years, and that ended any form of arrogance or self-importance on my part. I became an incredibly humble person after that. Everyone out there who knows what I'm talking about, it's the day after Father's Day. You know what I mean? Love my daughters dearly. And actually, I love them, I think, maybe the most for that. When you're humbled, you get really, really smart. But we're going to take a break right now.
This is
Sid on Sports.
Oh, my goodness! Sponsored by Peerless Boilers on 77 WABC.
Justin Ellick here with your sports update, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a deal under you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best-built boilers. Start out here in the Bronx. Yanks lost 4-1 to the Reds, losing the final two games to drop a 3-game series against Cincinnati. Yanks stole 6 bases in a game for the first time since 2013. Dominguez, Bellinger, and Chisholm Jr. stole 2 apiece for the Yankees, who lead the American League with 80 steals. New York also went 0-for-9 with runners in scoring position and went hitless in its final 24 at-bats with runners in scoring position in the series. Ben Rice homered in the third as the Yankees lost for the third time in 4 games, and Omar Rodriguez allowed 3 runs and 4 hits in 4+ innings. He made his 4th career start since the Yankees pushed back Garrett Cole and the rest of their starters a day. Up next for the Yankees, the aforementioned Cole will start tonight's opener of a 3-game series against the Tigers. First pitch from Detroit is scheduled for 6:10 p.m. In Philadelphia, the Mets lost 6-2 to the Phillies, dropping the final 2 games to lose a 3-game series there. You got a homer from Carson Bench, his 9th third inning off of Zach Wheeler. Starter David Peterson, he got the loss, dropped to 3-6 on the year. He went 4 innings, gave up 6 hits, 4 earned runs, and had 5 Ks throughout. Up next for the Mets, they'll welcome in the Chicago Cubbies for the opener of a 4-game set tonight. 7:10 p.m. is your start time from Citi Field. We'll watch the rain closely as it is set to get wet this afternoon. Kodai Senga will start if the rain does hold off. At Shinnecock Hills Golf Club on on Long Island. Wyndham Clark captured his second U.S. Open title yesterday after nearly squandering a 6-stroke lead in the final round before holding on for a 1-stroke victory. He became the 9th wire-to-wire winner of the U.S. Open with a closing round 3 over 73. Saw his lead shrink to only 1 stroke in Sunday's final round. But after Sam Burns narrowly missed birdie putts on 17 and 18 ahead of him, Clark took control again to seal the win down the stretch. Head into the World Cup. We'll check in there following the Americans' 2-0 victory over Australia on Friday night. We're looking ahead now to Thursday night in L.A. 10 p.m. start there. We'll go up against Turkey, and we're 2-0, of course, in group play. Turkey 0-2 thus far. And a big trade yesterday in the NHL. Ottawa Senators trading captain Brady Tkachuk to the Florida Panthers. Well, he will meet his brother, Matthew. Trade return includes both the Florida's first-round picks in Friday's draft coming up, number 9 choice that Florida held, and the number 25 selection the Panthers acquired in a trade with the Seattle Kraken earlier yesterday, as well as a 2029 first-round pick and a future second-round pick. That is your sports, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a dealer near you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And there's something happening in Ukraine other than war. We have Governor Pataki's son there, Owen Pataki, and he is teaching the Ukrainians and the Europeans American football while I guess Rudy Giuliani's son
overseeing the overseeing the FIFA stuff here, but you're looking at
FIFA,
American football.
Call it European football, because I mean, if you stopped 100 people in the street and asked them what FIFA was, how many would know?
-3.
So why would you call it FIFA? Soccer.
Soccer.
Andrew Giuliani is teaching the American people soccer, and it has a great draw, and a lot of people, a zillion people are watching it. Maybe we'll have him call in and give us an update. But Owen Pataki is in Ukraine and in Europe teaching Europeans American football. Owen Pataki, are you there? Just lost him?
We just lost Owen Pataki.
I don't know if there's a good signal out in Ukraine.
Listen.
The mobile.
He might have a good excuse. But just give people a little bit of a background. American football, the real football, has been played in Europe for a long time. They have their own professional football leagues, but also on American military bases all over Europe for many years, there is pretty high-level football being played, so high-level that there are a number of young children of American servicemen and women who end up getting recruited by major colleges to play. One of the best players I ever saw in the Ivy League was a guy named Michael Corshi, who grew up playing football at an army base in Germany where his father was stationed, and he ended up going to the LA Raiders. The Oakland Raiders. This, at least he's not starting from complete scratch. But, if you're just joining us, we started at 6 a.m. with a little bit of a rant about soccer, though, which is the fact that, yes, there is a World Cup match in New Jersey tonight. I understand that's going to be extra traffic. Welcome to the party, pal. The Jets and the Giants play Monday night and Thursday night games multiple times a year. These are weeknight, rush hour games, and they don't shut down all of New Jersey Transit just for the game like they're doing tonight for this game. They don't shut down many of the roads in New Jersey just for this game like they're doing tonight for this game. Imagine you're a New Jersey-based person who works here in the city, needs to get back home, and they tell you, because the official, Judge Weinberg, the official announcement has been, if you can work at home, stay home. Tell that to the dishwasher, the short order cook, the doctor. They can't work from home. It's outrageous.
I wonder why they didn't schedule this for the weekend, right? The Super Bowl is usually played on the weekends,
yeah, but it doesn't matter. We do this all the time. I have driven to Jets games on Monday nights. It is horrific and awful, but you get there, you give yourself time, no big deal. I would not in a million years say, they should have shut down all the roads for us Jet fans. What they should do is shut down all the psychiatric wards for us Jet fans the next day, because that's what we need. That's where we need to go.
You need a judicial determination of insanity?
Yeah, honestly. But look, and I want the United States to put its best foot forward for all these foreign tourists. Listen, can you imagine being a foreigner from Europe or South America coming to the United States? You got to be loaded, right? You got to have or the political leader of the child of a dictator. That costs a lot of money to come here, buy that ticket, buy that plane ticket, stay in our hotels. So we want to put our best foot forward for these folks. But everything should be shut down. This to me, this is a national. It's really, I for some reason, this just really bothers me this morning, especially since I've
all
done
the things that should bother you this morning. This is what you're ranting and raving about this morning.
It's a real New York story. There are people in this area who can't get to work, who can't see their doctor today, can't get their car service. I mean, to me, this is just too much.
Listen, Jake, FIFA demanded a special transportation plan, right? Security requirements are much higher. Officials expected worldwide visitors unfamiliar with the region. I mean, none of that makes sense. I think it was just bad planning, bad planning.
Give me a break. Go to a Philadelphia Eagles game, and you're lucky you get out of there alive from the tailgate. And that's just from the fans of the Eagles, not the other team's fans, all right? I mean, honestly, I mean, really, this is, to me, is a little bit more of a stretch. By the way, I want everyone to stay tuned. Remember, again, this is Sid and Friends in the Morning. I'm Jake Novak. John Catsimatidis, Fernando Mateo, Judge Richard Weinberg has just joined us. He chimed in on my outrage over bad traffic. We are in for Sid, who's in Israel this week and has been, by the way, follow him on WABC social media and stuff. He's been putting together some really great posts about what he's doing there. He has a very busy day today. We hope he'll be calling in at some point this week. But as I mentioned in the last segment, our good friend John Solomon from Just the News is stepping down from his journalism role to become basically the czar of all the documentation of potential voter fraud in the 2020 election for the Trump administration. And he's a logical choice because he's he's been able to get a bunch of these documents himself. That said, he's going to be joining us at 7:45.
Owen Pataki's on.
Owen Pataki, former Cornell Big Red football player, but now our ambassador to football in Ukraine. Tell us, are they loving American football in Ukraine even amidst a warlike situation?
Hey, gentlemen, I heard you talking about traffic issues. Sorry, we're driving through central Ukraine right now, so the reception's a little spotty. But yeah, they're enthusiastic. They're good at it. They love the sport. It's not as popular as soccer, obviously, like most European countries, but they've got a really enthusiastic league and some pretty great young players coming up through their ranks.
Oh, and the Ukrainian guys that play football, are they the same size as the football players in the United States, or are they bigger, stronger?
So they have flag leagues as well as tackle football leagues. The tackle one has been muted since the war for obvious reason. A lot of the guys joined the Army. I've met and I know a lot of the tackle guys, and they're definitely as big as your average American football player. They've got some big guys. They've got some skill position guys as well. They're definitely big boys over here. They can definitely throw the pads around. They're not afraid to hit for sure. So yeah, I mean if they went on an NFL or NCAA workout training regimen, I'm pretty sure they could definitely hold their own with the American football players.
Oh, and I want to ask you in a second about the fact that, of course, this is an important deal for America financially because the NFL's interest in Europe is well documented. They're going to play even more games in Europe this year. It's a very big deal. But before I do that, because I don't want this to get to only talk about the sports aspect of it, how do you feel that the Ukrainian people feel about the United States now? 4 years into the war with Russia, is there resentment? Is there gratitude? Are you helping via football and other things, helping to keep this relationship going? Because at some point this war is going to end, and we're all going to have to reassess where we are in the world.
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak for the entire country because there's differing opinions depending on where you go, who you talk to. But from the Ukrainians that I've spoken to, they're definitely they love America. They do like us. They appreciate the sport we did give. They appreciate a lot of there's a lot of private sector to our own interest and investment in Ukraine, and there's a lot of morale support from YouTube personalities and American media figures. Like there's still a spotlight on Ukraine from certain parts of American society. So I think Ukrainians, they still like us. They're still grateful and appreciative. I think they'd love to see more engagement from us. I do think there is they do want to hear from us. They do need our support. They do want our support. So I'd say it's a mixed bag in that sense, but they're optimistic. They've been through a lot. And I think it's true to say they're tired collectively as a country. They've been through a lot. They've been through 4 years of brutal war. If you live in a city like Kyiv, you're getting bombed or missiles struck most nights, if not every other night. So they are tired, and they want the war to end. But I personally haven't seen any resentment towards America or anything like that. But I do think these kind of trips from American groups and from groups like the Pataki Center or the NFL or whoever, I do think they're meaningful. I do think it shapes that soft power and keeps that diplomatic and that a human channel between our countries, keeps it open and alive, which is what we want, I think.
Owen, I have a question for you. This is Fernando Mateo. I'm a very good friend of your father's, a very big supporter of Governor Pataki. Aren't you nervous being in Ukraine right now with what's going on? I mean, it takes bravery to actually take a flight and go out there to, promote sports or football in this particular case. How do you feel personally? Do you feel safe?
Yeah, I mean, the cities we're in, for the most part, we're avoiding, obviously going anywhere farther to the east or a major city like Kyiv. We just came from Lviv. We're going to Vinnytsia. We're aware of how dangerous it is and how violent some of the last few weeks and months have been. This is my 8th trip to Ukraine since the war started, and this is the Pataki Centers. I've lost count. There's probably upwards of 20 of Pataki Center missions over to Ukraine. So at this point, it's not our first trip. We've been here before, and I think about it, but I think about our Ukrainian friends who live in this. They live in these cities. They live this life, and they can't leave. They're here every day, and so anything bad that happens, they're seeing it, or their families are feeling it, or people they know are hearing the missiles or the drones come into Kyiv or other big cities. So yeah, I mean, we're aware of that it's a dangerous place for sure. I'd be lying if I said we weren't cognizant of it, of the danger. But we're busy here. We're traveling. We're staying to relatively spots as safe as you can be. So we're not scared to be here, but we're definitely aware that we're in a dangerous part of the world for sure.
Owen, it's Judge Richard Weinberg, who's one of your father's admirers and colleagues. I want to commend you and your father for everything you do. I have 2 questions for you. First question is, what motivated you and your father to do this in the first place, to go into a war zone, to do this, to support the people of Ukraine? And the second thing is, what's the sense that you have of the morale of the people after these 4 years of war?
Yeah, well, it's a broad question, and we could talk about it for a while. I think one of the first things was just how, Ukraine did not ask for this war. Putin and Russia invaded Ukraine, and it was unprovoked and it was unjustified. And I think we just thought that, Ukraine, they want to share our values. They want to be part of a free, democratic, Western world civilization, and Putin wants to keep them under his thumb. And so we just felt like the Ukrainians, they shared our values. They share the vision for the future that we in the free West have and are lucky to take advantage of. And the Ukrainians showed so much bravery. They showed so much willingness to fight, willingness to defend their country. And I tell the Ukrainians, it reminds me of how America started. America started with an imperial power, Great Britain, who didn't want us to exist. They wanted us to stay colonists to the king. And Putin is kind of acting the same way to the Ukrainians. So we see a lot of echoes in Ukraine's struggle for their own independence and liberty, like the American Revolution. So there's a lot that we have in common. And the Ukrainians, like I said, they're tired. I think they're exhausted from war. They definitely feel it, but they're not going to give up. They are very resilient, and they know what they're fighting for. They believe in it. So they're nowhere near ready to surrender or to give up, the country or even lands at this point. They're going to keep fighting, but they are tired. In
a very real sense, what the Ukrainians have done in this war is they've revolutionized warfare with their drones. They're on the cutting edge of this, and this is going to shape future wars. Regrettably, we have to have wars because there are necessary wars, but this is going to reshape how both sides fight. And technology and AI is going to be the future.
Yeah, and they have so much experience at this point that they're teaching NATO's troops, they're teaching American troops, they're sending anti-drone technology to the Middle East against Iran. So I mean, Ukraine definitely has earned their place among the kind of powerful, influential nations of the world for sure. I mean, they've earned it through 4 years of sacrifice and war, but they're definitely, like you said, they've learned a lot, and they have a lot to teach us in the West. That's for sure.
Well, Owen Pataki, thank you so much for your efforts as someone who is a very big advocate for youth football. The regular football, youth football here in the United States going through kind of a crisis. A lot of parents not letting their kids play football. It's a very, very great character building sport. It's a big teamwork sport. There's a lot of positives for it, and the safety concerns about football are being addressed more and more every day. That's my little advertisement for youth football. But I'm glad you're doing this in Ukraine. Whatever we can do to spread the American truth, justice, and the American way overseas, if it has to be football, if it's entertainment, whatever it is, I think it's a great thing. So thank you so much for what you're doing there. And say hi to your dad for us. That's Owen Pataki, who's over in Ukraine, trying to promote American football over there. And boy, do they need a pastime there other than war. That's for sure.
Be safe and be well, Owen.
Right.
Owen,
thank you for having me.
Take care of yourself, my friend.
Take care, Owen.
All right, we're going to be back in just a moment with more of Sid and Friends in the Morning. It's the Cats and team. The Cats are playing while Sid's away.
Wait a second. It's Cats and Friends right now.
Cats and Friends special edition. But for our sponsors, it's still Sid and Friends in the Morning. But anyway, that's what we're talking about. Sid is in Israel doing very good work this week. We'll be right back.
Sid and Friends in the Morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news, WABC.
Sorry to interrupt there with Noam, but we're going to go live right now to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's in Lake Lucerne, Switzerland, explaining the latest on the Iran deal.
In terms of when the nuclear inspectors are going to start, it's funny, we were trying to call some of the inspectors last night around 2 in the morning. As you can expect, not many people were answering their phone at 2 in the morning. I expect that will happen at the minimum this week, but we think even some of those conversations with the inspectors and with the IAEA could happen as soon as today. But I haven't checked in with our team since we made that 2 a.m. phone call to some of those inspectors. Sorry.
Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Did you, going in, expect the Iranians to make Lebanon as much of a linchpin as they ended up doing? And how would you describe the progress on Lebanon? I know Mr. Araghchi said it was very good progress, but what's your characterization of it?
Yeah, I would describe it as very good progress, too. I mean, look, we want a regional ceasefire, right? We want Hezbollah to stop firing at our friends in Israel. We want Israelis to be able to live in peace. We also want to make sure that, when things happen, they don't spiral into a broader escalation. And so we've been, I think, very good at setting up what we're calling a deconfliction mechanism. But what it really is to say that when things happen, the sides are actually talking to one another. Sometimes, you've got a bit of a chicken and egg problem, that you've got a junior guy who fires a drone that didn't have approval from the high command. Okay, of course, Israel has to respond to that. But then sometimes that response, we could actually have a better and more peaceful situation if Israel responds in the context of a conversation that's ongoing between Hezbollah, Lebanon, Israel, and other partners in the region. There really hasn't been a mechanism to have those discussions until basically around 4 p.m. yesterday, Bergenstock time, when we set that up. So what we're trying to do is to say, first of all, Israel and every other nation in the region has the right of self-defense, but we want to make sure that everybody has that right of self-defense in the background where we're talking about how to de-escalate these conflicts rather than spiraling out of control. Sometimes what will happen is that if the conflict spirals out of control, that's worse for everybody's self-defense and worse for everybody's security. So we've actually got the process in place to ensure that that escalation doesn't happen. Now, I will say you already see the fruits of that. Over the past 24 hours, it's probably been the most peaceful that we've seen the situation in Lebanon. The previous 24 hours were pretty good. Obviously, there was some shooting about 72 hours ago. So this is a work in progress. But what we've done is actually set up the operation so that we can ensure it doesn't spiral out of control in the future.
Does the U.S. want Israel to withdraw forces from southern Lebanon?
Well, we want Israel's security to be protected, and we also want Lebanon's sovereignty to be protected, and this is going to be an ongoing conversation. The Israelis have been very clear they do not have territorial intentions on South Lebanon. The reason they feel they have to be there is because they're worried about Hezbollah fighters in South Lebanon firing into Israel. We do believe, of course it's going to require a lot of hard work, that we can get to a place where Lebanon's territorial integrity and sovereignty is protected, Israel's security is protected, and that's going to require some coordination with the Lebanese armed forces, and also it's going to require the Iranians to rein in Hezbollah. That's all the sort of things that we were talking about yesterday, and again, I think that we got much further compared to where we were just 24 hours ago.
Have you spoken with Prime Minister Netanyahu during any of this process at all in the recent days?
Yeah, we were in constant contact with the Israelis yesterday, but also, of course, with the Saudis and the Emiratis and others in the region. We talked to the Lebanese yesterday as well, so we're constantly trying to keep our regional friends updated about this. This is not a deal that the United States is imposing on the region. This is a deal that the region has desperately asked the United States to put in place. Obviously, the headlines have been very focused about what's been going on between the United States and Iran, but this region has been a basket case for a very long time. And what the president has set us to do, again, lay the foundation, see if we can get to a permanent peace. If we can't, the President of the United States still has a lot of options to accomplish America's security objectives, but he has certainly committed us to this pathway for now, and we're going to keep on working and seeing what we can accomplish. And then I want to just, before we depart here, I want to say one last thing. I've seen some misreporting about frozen or unfrozen Iranian assets. One of the other things that we wanted to do, and wasn't as high of a priority for us for obvious reasons, but we wanted to make sure that we set up a process where if we ever unfreeze Iranian assets, we can ensure that that money, that Iranian money, goes to help the people of Iran and not to fund terrorism. So Jared Kushner actually came up with a very interesting solution with the Qataris, where basically, again, if there is any frozen Iranian assets that are unfrozen, then we have approval over that process. The Qataris have approval over that process, and then the money would actually go to buy American soy, American corn, and American wheat for the benefit of the Iranian people. And as much as I see some of the press misreporting on this, and of course, buttressed by what the Iranians are saying, or not all Iranians, I want to be clear, there are a lot of Iranians who are telling the truth about what happened yesterday, but you see some social media reporting that gets this wrong. But fundamentally, what Jared and the Qataris and the entire team here in Bergenstock accomplished is, to me, a classic Trump deal, where if Iranian assets are ever unfrozen, they're going to go to make American farmers richer and to feed the Iranian people. That's a very, very good and very classic Trump deal that's great for our people, great for the people of Iran, and fundamentally, again, will contribute to this regional security architecture that we've built and that we're going to work very hard to ensure that it endures. So from Switzerland, thank you all for being here. I appreciate the questions and I appreciate the engagement. I'm looking forward to going back home, and we'll certainly keep everybody updated on what happens in the days and weeks to come. Thank you all.
So that was Vice President J.D. Vance in Lake Lucerne, Switzerland, giving a pretty optimistic outlook on the talks over the weekend. A couple things that people need to understand, and I explained this on the NewsHour Weekend Edition twice this weekend, and I hope people understand what happened going into the weekend, so that because the rest of the mainstream media is not covering this. Friday night going into Saturday morning, the Israelis surrounded an area in southern Lebanon known as the Amir Taher Ridge. The Ali Taher Ridge, Amir Taher Ridge, different names. It is basically Hezbollah's Pentagon. It's their Pentagon. It's an underground facility built for them by the Iranians that has a lot of weapons in it, but it's also their command center. And the Israelis surrounded it. As soon as that happened, Hezbollah called 911 to Tehran, said, we need another ceasefire. We need a specific ceasefire. Please help us. And that started a push-pull. First, the Iranians basically were hoping to be more conciliatory with the United States. Then they walked out of talks to try to make it clear that they were going to do anything to help Hezbollah. Then President Trump on Truth Social bashed Hezbollah, bashed Iran for helping Hezbollah. Now, Israel has been told to stand down. They have not entered this facility. They have not started to clear it out, but they are still surrounding it right now and standing down. Apparently, that was good enough to keep the talks going. And the number that we're really interested in is the price of oil. The last quote I have, $74.87, so lower than we were saying 75 in the last hour. So it's coming down. So I would say, John, that the markets and the oil traders are cautiously optimistic about this. If they were really thinking this is it, we'd be seeing a 5 or a 6 handle on oil. But a 7 handle, not bad. I'll take it.
Well, John predicted that.
Yeah.
I mean, he predicted that early on.
I'm looking at Judge Weinberg's face, and when Vice President J.D. Vance talks, you get a sour look on your face, Judge.
Let's be perfectly clear about this. As long as Hezbollah exists, they're the army, they're the forces for Iran. That's why Iran has to protect them, because that's their last force that really works for them. They're their terrorists. Let's talk about, the Vice President talks about national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The fact of the matter is that what they've done is they've captured an independent state, Lebanon, and they've allowed Lebanon to become a base of terrorist operations. The Lebanese people do not control their own country. Hezbollah controls their country with Iran's backing. That's what's going on. So the reality is, as long as Hezbollah exists, it's a threat. It's a Middle Eastern peace. It's a bolster for the Iranians. And I'm always optimistic that we'll have peace and kumbaya and everything is going to be just fine. But the fact of the matter is, understand what these people want. They want world domination. They want hegemony. Their political tracks say so. Their religious tracks say so. This is serious business. When you got them on the ropes, you should close out the deal. That's my position, because otherwise we'll be back in this situation when people are not paying attention.
Well, I have good news for you, Judge, because this is the president of Lebanon this weekend speaking to a shocked and definitely dismayed Christiane Amanpour, who didn't want to hear this. This is the president of Lebanon echoing a lot of what you just said from the Lebanese point of view about how they feel about Hezbollah and Iran. Listen to this.
It's not your country. It's our country. It's our obligation. It's not your job to interfere into our country. I reject this statement totally, because our people being killed, our houses being destroyed. They are using Lebanon as a bargaining chip in their negotiation with the United States. It's unacceptable. And here also, Hezbollah must understand that. Hezbollah must understand that no other way but to sit and talk. No other way to solve this problem and to save what's left except through negotiation.
I hope you could see I wish you could see the video, and you can see it on my X account, @JakeNY. I tweeted it a couple of days ago. The look of disgust and discomfort on Christiane Amanpour's face while this guy sets her straight about Iran's and Hezbollah's violation of Lebanon. And before that, they were violated by the PLO, and they were violated by the French colonists before. I mean, Lebanon has never really been independent. And these are the strongest words you ever heard from a Lebanese leader, especially speaking in English, about Iran and Hezbollah.
They had a civil war because of Arafat and the PLO.
It was an invasion. It wasn't a civil war.
That's right. But but because they had been infiltrated.
Right.
And when I say there was a civil war, it was the Christians versus the radical Muslims. And the fact is that the Israelis backed the Christians. That was a war that had to be fought. They should have concluded it. So the Christian leadership cut a deal with the Muslim leadership to try to have joint power sharing. It hasn't worked out. It's only in paper.
50 years, 1976.
But again, let's go back. Let's go back to the issue of territorial integrity and sovereignty. This, as you correctly point out, this was an invasion by hostile forces. First the PLO, and then Iran. So give me a break about territorial integrity.
Incredible. By the way, if you want to know a little bit more about that, well, you have a guest who comes on WABC and a lot of the other programs very often, a Lebanese Christian woman named Bridget Gabriel. She's an amazing woman. Do yourself a favor after this program, sometime later, go and search Bridget Gabriel, the Israeli ambulance driver. And it's a story of how during that invasion in 1976, when the PLO started a war with the Christians of Lebanon, how Israel lined up dozens of ambulances just across the border from Lebanon to help any civilian who came across that border and take them to an Israeli hospital. Muslim or Christian. She and her mother finally had to do this. They had to pay their cousin something like $300, which is all the money in the world they had for a cab. He owned a cab to drive them to the ambulance. They get into the ambulance and say, by the way, how much? How much are you going to charge us, Mr. Israeli ambulance driver, to take us to the hospital? And he looked at them like they were crazy. I'm not charging you anything. I'm taking you to the hospital.
And don't
Incredible
forget,
story.
And don't forget, by the way, during those turbulent times, a U.S. ambassador to Lebanon and another diplomat and the driver, they were all assassinated.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, and who's responsible for that?
Right. And Hezbollah later on in the early 80s killed hundreds of U.S. Marines. And really, I think maybe the biggest mistake of the Reagan presidency is he cut and run after that. And,
I agree with
and that was a big
Listen,
problem.
Ronald Reagan, in many ways, is my favorite president, but on that level, terrible mistake.
Yeah, it emboldened Hezbollah, and this is why they do this. But I have to tell you, I'm very happy to say, even at this hour, the Israeli Defense Forces continue to surround the Tahrir Ridge, which is the Pentagon of Hezbollah, and hopefully they'll neutralize it.
Israel has to do what Israel has to do.
Yeah,
they got to protect their own country, and I understand that.
And they're protecting the Lebanese people.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Lebanon and Beirut was the capital of the financial world.
The Paris of the Middle East, they call it.
Yes.
Oh, and Fernando is absolutely right. This is not just about Israelis. They're protecting the people
And
of
I'll tell you
Lebanon.
how I feel, how I personally feel. I think if we got rid of the terrorists in Iran and freed Lebanon, that'd be a real home run.
Lebanese people would appreciate the liberation.
And financially, listen, the Phoenician people, the people that have a tradition of commerce, a tradition of shipping, very much like the Greek people, and the Arab people too. Also, I mean, don't forget their centuries of commerce in their culture. We could have such an economic boom, which is why President Trump always tries to put economics at the forefront of negotiations in the Middle East, because that's part of their culture. And it's just been suppressed by the Islamist radicals.
But what you say is very important. Islamist extremism don't care about economic development.
No.
But they care about ideological supremacy. And that's a big... So when you're dealing with people like that who are zealots, there is no deal that they will make. They will keep coming back and back and back. When they tell you death to Israel, death to America, they're talking about death to Western civilization. They've infiltrated Europe. Europe is on its knees now, doesn't know what to do because of the open borders, because of the EU. This is a serious business about infiltration. And if you go back to the doctrines enunciated in the Muslim Brotherhood in the 1920s, it's very, very clear the game plan is to infiltrate the societies and destroy it from within.
Funded by the Nazis, the literal Nazis. The Muslim Brotherhood was funded by the Nazis even before they took over Germany. That's why they sound so much like them. That's why they act so much like them. But I want to seize on another point that you made. You know, I know a lot of you are listening here, Sid and Friends in the morning, and it's basically Cats in the morning, Cats and Company in the morning. But I know a lot of you are listening and thinking, all right, this is the Middle East problem. It's far away. You know what? Why can't we just build a fence around it and go home? The answer is there's something called the jet airplane. The answer is there's something called the internet. There's something called hackers. We are not protected by our oceans or the distance anymore. If you didn't learn that on 9/11/2001, I don't know when you're going to learn it. But these people are vicious people. They don't think like us. I'm not saying this is a racial or DNA thing. It's got nothing to do with that. This is about ideology, not about biology. Okay? So get off of that if those of you think this is some kind of racial thing.
Do we need to take a break? I understand Dr. Michlos is coming in after this.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news, WABC.
And have breaking news here in the WABC newsroom. Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan, who was the chairman of the Fed for 19 years for presidents, all the way from Ronald Reagan all the way through George W. Bush, has died at the age of 100. Hard to pinpoint a person who had more of an effect over our macroeconomy than Alan Greenspan over that time. He was a major player. They called him the maestro. Some people loved him. Some people hated him. But the stock market certainly stands as a testament to him. I mean, it is many exponentially points higher than it was.
A lot of us will take 100 years old right now.
I'll sign that contract immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Start drafting those contracts.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, you know, we lost Kissinger at 101. We lost Greenspan at 100. I mean, our creator, I guess the switch goes off.
It's amazing. And it wasn't until it was pretty recently he was still giving interviews, still speaking about the economy. By the way, one of his signature attributes, I think, is that he never really modulated his tone, which when you're at a dinner party, maybe you don't like. But for a Fed chairman, you don't want a Fed chairman who gets excitable. You don't want a Fed chairman who sounds morose one day. I mean, if people start putting their money in the mattress. And he never modulated his tone, even when he was saying things that were pretty impactful. In 1997, he famously talked about the stock market and said it was experiencing irrational exuberance. And people thought, oh, my God, the Fed chairman just said it's a big bubble. And it turned out the market just kept rolling until 2001. And it recovered from the sell-offs in 2001, recovered from the sell-offs in 2008 and all that kind of thing. But You know, the Fed chairman, Larry Kudlow says something interesting about the Fed. He says the markets have a lot of things that move it every single day, but the Fed is where they open the notebook every day. I'm paraphrasing what Larry says, but the Fed creates the rundown. The Fed creates the outline of the day. And love it or hate it, and there's a lot of people who want to abolish the Fed, and I understand that argument very well. We're not here to really judge the value of that right now. We're just talking about a guy who for 19 years was the most important financial voice in the country.
He lived a great life, and I always remember a notable quote. If you think you understand what I am saying, you do not understand what I am saying.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Amateurs want to be right. Professionals want to make money.
Was that Alan Greenspan, or the Collective Wives of America? I think the women, but anyway, all joking aside, just an amazing career. Very good New York story. Not born into a wealthy family. Grew up in Washington Heights. Went to NYU all the way through. Briefly tried to be a musician.
He grew up with Dominicans?
Yes.
He grew up with Dominicans.
Well, I don't know how many Dominicans were. Actually, there were Dominicans back then,
yes, of course.
And he went to NYU all the way through, back when NYU was more of a, it's always been a private school, but was more of a city college. Yeah, it was a commuter school.
NYU became great later on.
Yes, and expensive. It's like the most expensive school now. But, still had incredible people who went there. At any given time in the middle of the 20th century, there were more Nobel Prize winners at NYU and City College than there were at Harvard or Princeton or a place like that. So that was a great New York story. Also, briefly wanted to be a musician. Attended Juilliard briefly, which is no small deal either, getting in there or working there. So.
We also lost Kissinger at 101.
Yeah.
I would go for that deal better than Greenspan. It's like another year.
Yeah, and both of them very mentally sharp until the end, by the way, which is another factor. I don't want to be living in oblivion somewhere and still be living in name only. All right, we have we were talking about biology before. We have Dr. Mikolos on the air right now. Doctor, thanks so much for waiting. A quick comment about living to 100. Any other than being a Fed chairman, any tips on how to live that long?
Well, there are many tips, and one of the things, of course, you'll notice that he was actually a thinner person. So that's why we all have to strive to lose weight, stay thin, and that's why eating less often, intermittent fasting, is one of the keys to longevity. And that forces our body to go into repair mode, because during those 16 hours where we're not eating, if we only eat between noon and 8, those people do a lot better, because during those 16 hours, your kidneys are resting, your gut is resting, your gut is focusing on immunity and cleanup. And, of course, the Mediterranean diet has been proven over and over again. And they found that in the Mediterranean diet, there's a common denominator, which is the olive oil, which contains oleic acid. And oleic acid in olive oil and avocados turns on the longevity genes called the sirtuins. And recent literature even found that the oleic acid in olive oil and avocados also activate stem cells, which is pretty amazing. And another thing that all these people who have longevity, they found that in their gut microbiome, they have certain beneficial bacteria. When they analyze the gut, basically the poop of the people who are 100, it's different, and it's healthier, and there's a more diverse and balanced gut microbiome in these people. And the other thing that in the recent literature they found is vitamin D turns out not to really be a vitamin but a hormone, and it actually keeps the little end caps on our DNA called the telomeres, and the longer they are, the longer you live. And they found that people who kept their D levels between like 50 and 75, those people had maintained longer telomeres. So vitamin D is also an anti-aging drug. So these are things we're finding out. That's why in the blue zones they say that the common denominator is the olive oil, but also Loma Linda, California happens to be a blue zone, and then they figured out it's because they eat a lot of avocados. So those are some of the tips. And, of course, sleep is critical. Sleeping on your side is more efficient, because that's when all the brain cleanup happens, and cleaning up the plaques and all the waste materials in the brain. And side sleeping is better, and those who sleep more. And obviously movement, we've shown that exercise and movement keeps our blood flowing and our vessels dilating, opening and closing. That's why you get hardening of the arteries when you're sedentary and your arteries don't open and close. But when you move or exercise, even if it's just after you eat, a quick 10-minute walk or even 150 minutes a week of movement, that helps keep our vessels moving, and healthy blood vessels are critical for anti-aging. And of course, having good relationships, good friendships, that's like having a built-in psychiatrist in your community. And a lot of these villages in the blue zones, they all hang out at the coffee shop, the men, the women, they talk, they go to church together, they go to synagogue together, mosque together, they pray together, and those people tend to do a lot better. But before I finish up, you guys have been talking a lot about Iran, and I was wondering if I can just comment 2 minutes about something historically. That we have to realize when you're dealing with Iran, it's actually 31 separate provinces, and each one of them has a different IRGC general, and it's broken up into 5 broad regions. And you think of Iran, we keep talking about it as this monolithic place, but actually it's broken up into several regions that don't get along. In the southeast, you have the Sunnis, where you have all the uprisings, and that's in Sistan and Baluchistan. And then in the western area, you have the Kurds, which are fighting for autonomy. And then you have an area, remember that Iran is not Sunni, it's a Shia country, unlike the other regions. And in Kazakhstan, they have the Arab minority, and that's in the oil-rich region, and they're always having issues over there. And then on the Caspian Sea, you have the Gilan region, which is where the left-wing progressive are, which most of the protests happen. And then you have Qom, Qom, where you have the area where all the theocracies and the basically the mullahs and the religious schools are. So Iran is just broken up. It's just like basically when you're dealing with them in these negotiations, it's like you're dealing with Montana, Texas, Florida, New York, California, and they all have different ideas. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these things get slowed down, because they're broken up into so many regions with all this diversity, and they have different concerns. And I always remind people that in 600 AD, Iran was Zoroastrian, Afghanistan was Buddhist, and Egypt was 80% Coptic Christian. So these places have undergone a lot of changes, and that's why they fight with their neighbors, and nobody talks about it. It's also religious war. They are of the 12 books of the Shia sect, and all those surrounding countries that they've been attacking are all Sunni countries. So just so people understand that region a little bit better.
Doctor, we're dealing with a number of issues in addition to all the health and biological things you've just mentioned. There's stress going on in American life right now. I wasn't joking at the top of the 6 a.m. hour when I talked about how they're shutting down all the roads in New Jersey Transit for these games. I mean, that's an aspect of it also. I mean, the stress that people have, there's a psychological aspect to your health as well.
Absolutely. There's also electronic heroin, because we're looking at teenagers and teenage girls. The suicide rate is elevated, mental illness and anxiety, because they look at social media, they see how other people are living, they compare their lives, they feel like a loser because people are always showing, taking pictures of their food or where they're vacationing. And this instant gratification electronic heroin is doing damage to our youth. And right now in the city, there's a lot of stress because people have concerns. Whenever you have a mass migration event, and that's what the World Cup is, or even out in the Hamptons with the U.S. Open, you have all these people together, and there are, always concerns about safety. There's concerns about spread of diseases, TB. A lot of these things are on the rise. Measles is popping up again because there's so many unvaccinated people around the world for measles, which is very important. We're seeing a rise in TB. Nobody likes to talk about it, but Bellevue has a whole TB ward. And, every time you go on the subway, there are concerns. So all these life stressors, anxiety, and also financial stress. I have a tiny little house that was $2,300 a year in insurance, and now it's $6,300. So car insurance is double. So these are real issues that need to be addressed. And in New York, especially, it's gotten very expensive. And I talk to a lot of families, and I talk to seniors, and they're making decisions about, can I afford my medicine and my copays this month versus going shopping, or I'm not going to drive because I don't know if I can fill up my car. So all that add stress, and we know that stress causes a rise in cortisol and epinephrine. Why do people get heart attacks when they're stressed out? Because in our ancient biology, our clotting system goes into overdrive, because in ancient times when we had stress, it was in anticipation of being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger or having trauma, so our clotting system would go into overdrive. So when men are stressed out over work and women are stressed out over work, and you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about all these things, that clotting system goes into overdrive in anticipation of trauma, and that's why you get more strokes and heart attacks and things like that. And speaking of that, the new guidelines came out. We want to keep our LDLs below 100, and one of the markers that you should ask your doctor to check, but a lot of them don't, but it's an important marker, is the apolipoprotein B, which is the carrier of cholesterol, and they found if you can keep that below 100, you dramatically decrease your risks of heart attack and strokes. And of course, another thing for longevity is avoiding seed oils, because they're made with artificial things like hexane. So you want to stick to avocado oil,
Doctor,
olive oil.
You have a new book coming out.
Yes, the Death
Tell
of
us about the
Aging.
new book, and when is it coming out?
The end of July. It's about 340 pages, and it summarizes all the.
And it's going to tell us how do we live to 100?
It's going to give us a lot of tips, because all the information is from all the centenarians.
Well, WABC is giving you a big book party.
What's really cool about it, we work with an AI gentleman who's like 30 years old in the Forbes Under 30. He developed an AI protocol, which is part of the book, where you put any topic in anti-aging into this AI section, and what it does is it searches and pulls up all the recent literature on that topic. So if you put metformin, which is a common diabetes drug made from French lilac that's been found to help with anti-aging and anti-cancer and actually anti-COVID, you put it in and it'll pull up all the recent literature on every topic and all the new literature. Like just the other day, a publication came out that since it's Alzheimer's month, that our copper-zinc ratio is critical in avoiding Alzheimer's disease. So there's a lot of new things. Keep listening to WABC.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Michalos, because we got to take a break at 7:45. And thank you for keeping our listeners living longer.
Doctor, your advice was great. This is Fernando Mateo. I made notes of everything you said. I am fasting now for 16 hours a day, and if I don't live to 100, I'm going to come looking for you.
By the way, I do intermittent fasting too.
Okay.
I don't eat. I don't eat till I only eat 8 hours a day. Yeah. Not before 12 and not after 8.
WABC, where every day is Yom Kippur. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Doctor.
We're going to be right back with
Thank you, John and Margot.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be right back with the aforementioned John Solomon, and in 15 minutes, we're going to get the mystery solved about why Margot Catsimatidis was pushed out by President Trump on a True Social post over yesterday. It's a huge mystery, and we have the only man here who can explain. We'll be right back.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We're playing while Sid is gone in Israel right now. I'm Jake Novak in for Sid. Also with us, John Catsimatidis, Fernando Mateo, Judge Richard Weinberg. A lot of breaking news to get to this morning, not the least of which being what's going on with the discussions of peace with Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance giving us a positive spin on things. You just heard that in the last hour. We went to him live. The markets are responding cautiously, optimistically about all of this right now. We have oil prices down slightly, $74, $75 a barrel level. 32nd straight day of gasoline prices going down. We talked about that at the top of the program. That's great for cab drivers or anyone who has to drive for a living. Huge deal.
Cab drivers are probably the most grateful for what's going on with the gas prices right now.
And also just breaking, really just like about 10 minutes ago, Alan Greenspan, the longtime chairman of the Federal Reserve under Democrat presidents, Republican presidents, appointed by President Reagan, and he served all the way through George W. Bush, if you can imagine. I mean, really long term, has passed away at the age of 100.
I'll take it.
And he was really clear of mind all the way through. I mean, I heard him giving interviews not that long ago. So he it's one thing to live to 100. It's another to live to 100 and have all your faculties together. The markets will open for trading in about 97 minutes, and we're looking at a higher open again. The markets have been breaking records. It's been slow and steady for the most part. I know there's been some fantastic days on the up and down side.
Oil is down again today.
Yeah, and we were talking about that oil being down slightly.
Look, let's bring in John Solomon is on.
Great. I'm glad he's here.
Let's bring him in. Me and John Solomon worked together about 100 years ago. Jerry Finkelstein started the Hill newspaper, and John Solomon was there with him, and I owned a little piece of the action. And, well, it was a long time ago. What do you say?
A lot has happened since that time. Some things are all the same. I think we've been waiting for some of the Russia collusion documents all that time, so some things have stayed the same.
Well, the president trusts you, and he just gave you a phenomenal promotion. That he wants you to check out all those documents. Tell all our listeners. We may have 1 million people listening. Tell us what you're going to be doing, John Solomon.
Yeah, I'm going to be an unpaid special government employee overseeing a task force designed to get out a lot of these documents on weaponization, on prior intelligence and law enforcement failures and abuses, things that have stayed in the recesses of the bureaucracy for 10 years despite multiple efforts by Congress, by lawsuits, by FOIA. There are still enormous secrets that sit unreleased by the government despite the president's orders for transparency. So our task force is to dig them out, to extract them. We're going to do it quickly. I think we'll be done by the end of summer, but we're getting a lot of great cooperation from all the agencies, and I think everything from COVID cover-ups and FBI crossfire hurricane origin stories that we haven't heard to more recent stuff involving Jack Smith. We'll be able to get all of that out in the next 60 to 90 days.
How can this happen in our country, John Solomon?
It's a great question, and I think when we get the documents, we'll begin to understand it, because I think these are the ones the bureaucracy most did not want out. And so as a result, these are the ones that give us the darkest, deepest secrets into just exactly what was being covered up. Did we keep things from an active, did the CIA try to keep things from an active president on China meddling in the 2020 election? The stuff I've seen already that's public certainly leans in that direction. Is that possible that it continued all the way on and we kept the president and Congress in the dark? Did we use foreign powers to spy on the Trump campaign? There's certainly some indications of that. We're going to find these things out. I think it's a mindset. I think at the end of the day, somewhere in the last decade or 2 decades, bureaucrats decided that their political interests were more important than the American people's.
When do you think this started? I mean, was it 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago? When do you think this started?
I think it starts midway through the Obama administration. That's where you start to see the early weaponization, the IRS targeting of the IRS, or the IRS targeting of conservatives. Fast and Furious. Today we got a new Fast and Furious like scandal out there where the Biden administration.
So if I asked you as one of the most educated guys I know in the reporting business, is you think it was the Obama administration that the what happened in our country and going the wrong direction?
Well, certainly the weaponization. There certainly was an idea under Barack Obama and the people that worked for him, Jack Smith, who, by the way, was involved in the IRS targeting scandal. He kind of invents some of the ideas that Lois Lerner would use. I think at some point the notion in that administration...
And nothing ever happened to Lois Lerner?
Nothing?
How can this happen?
Today.
How can this happen in the United States of America?
Yeah, no consequence, no accountability, and you keep the system. You allow the system to keep going forward, and that's why we saw so much weaponization under Biden. It got worse.
Now, the one more thing I want to bring to everybody's attention.
Sure.
Trump, 45.
Yep.
I don't think he realized, and I just want your opinion. I don't think he realized what Obama had done, putting 2,000 people in specific positions in Washington in the White House to make sure that Trump 45 does not succeed.
Yeah, he did embed a large number of career people into positions that would allow them to sustain the attacks on the Trump first presidency, to weaponize the government, and to throw the government off keel. And there's no greater example of that, John, than a January 5th, 2017 meeting. We know in the final 2 months of the Obama presidency, Barack Obama personally presided over 2 issues. One, he wanted to reverse the intelligence community's honest assessment, the career assessment, that Vladimir Putin didn't try to help President Trump win the election. So he ordered it rewritten and redone quickly, hastily, to leave an injury to President Trump's beginning of his presidency, and that is create a false intelligence assessment suggesting that Russia tried to help Donald Trump win the presidency. The facts didn't support that. He ordered it rewritten anyways. And then, while that was going on January 5th, 2017, Barack Obama presided over a meeting at the White House. I can't say this thing enough. It's such an extraordinary moment, such a Watergate moment. The FBI had just decided that Mike Flynn, the incoming National Security Advisor for Trump 45, was an innocent man. That they looked at him for Russia collusion. There was none. He was in the clear. And then the FBI was told to stand down on clearing him. And then there's a meeting that the President of the United States presides over to try to figure out how they can find something to hang on Mike Flynn, how they could get him arrested. And one of the FBI agents comes out of that meeting and writes a set of handwritten notes that are some of the most extraordinary documents I've ever seen. The notes say, what was our goal today? To get to the truth or to try to find a way to get an innocent man to lie so we can prosecute him. And they concocted a way that they were going to lure Mike Flynn into an interview, trip him up, and then charge him with lying, which, by the way, is exactly what they did. A president of the United States presided over both of those. He is up to his neck in the weaponization, and I think it's his administration that hit the go button on a systemic weaponization of government against it.
And it took. I just want to get all this in so all our million listeners know what the heck is going on. And it took President Trump 4 years on the beach to analyze and to realize what had happened, which ended up making him the best president the United States ever had as President 47.
There's no doubt that 4-year diaspora, when he's actually being pursued the whole time, one of the things he gets to see is the full brunt of the weaponization. 4 prosecutions while he's on the beach. But he gets him. There are 2 things he does. One, he understands that every aspect of government is weaponized, and he learns how to fight it in the trenches every day with lawyers and with legal motions and court efforts, the immunity ruling. The second thing is he learned that his first administration was embedded with enemies, and he would not enter a second administration with such enemies embedded in position.
But if we don't clear this up,
yep.
Somebody has to go to jail, John Solomon. I'm telling you right now, and me and you go back a long ways. Me and the president go back a long ways. Somebody has to go to jail for the United States to clean up what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be many people, and what I'm beginning to see suggests that there was a criminal conspiracy, and everything will rest on the hands of a guy named Joe DeGenova down in Florida, Fort Pierce, Florida, where the grand jury is now meeting. But the big thing for Joe DeGenova is you can only bring good prosecutions if you get the good evidence out of the Justice Department, out of the FBI, out of the CIA. And I think that is the most important thing in the next 90 days. Let's get all the evidence out so that there's a clear pattern of who did what, who should be punished for what, and then you get the thing. Right now, Joe DeGenova is still waiting for John Brennan's interview transcripts from the Senate. John Thune and the Senate are keeping the prosecutors from doing their job. So even at this moment, there's evidence that is being withheld that could potentially lead to that sort of accountability, John, that you've been calling for a decade.
Yes.
We're still getting obstruction.
John,
by the way, we got Jake and the judge are yelling at me. They want to go on.
Well, John Solomon, this is Jake Novak. You just described all these horrible things, the lack of acceptance of a peaceful transfer of power. So I got to get your response, John Solomon. This is Barack Obama on Thursday saying just the opposite at his speech dedicating his library. This is nauseating. Listen to this.
A belief in the peaceful transfer of power after the people have spoken in fair and free elections, recognizing that in a large, complicated society like ours, no group or faction gets its way 100% of the time.
I mean, that's hypocrisy on steroids.
Joke. What a joke. John, this is Fernando Mateo. I must tell you this. I just finished reading Pardon of Innocence, an inspiring story of faith and freedom by General Michael Flynn. Yeah. General Flynn is a personal friend of mine, and when I ran for mayor, he came to New York and he endorsed me. And everything you've said he basically verifies in the book that he wrote. So I recommend anyone that wants to find the truth in what happened and how Obama is responsible for everything that went on with President Trump, they should read this book.
Yeah, it's so important. The Mike Flynn journey is the perfect example.
Yes.
Because even the FBI agents pursuing him knew that what they were doing was unrighteous. Now, sadly, they didn't stop. They continued to do it. And I think that is...
Well, everybody likes their pension, you know?
Yeah. Well, today, listen, you've got a story breaking today that shows that some patriots still exist. There are DEA agents who came out of the woodwork today to acknowledge that for between 2023 and 2025, the Biden administration instructed them to let fentanyl flow onto the streets of New Mexico, killing young adults on a daily basis so they could maybe make a better case against the drug cartels. They were willing to sacrifice American lives.
Oh, my God.
It is fast and furious. If you remember under Barack Obama, they did this.
That was
with
the guns.
Right? They let the guns go to the cartels. Now they let fentanyl go on the street just so that some prosecutor could score a bigger case. That is a mindset of extraordinary danger, and it is great to see some whistleblowers coming out of the work and blowing the whistle.
1 minute left before we got to go to break.
Whistleblowers turned the case on Hunter Biden.
We got 1 minute left before we
sir.
go to break. Give me the biggest story you have. Judge, you've been yelling. You have something good? Better be good.
John, so are you're gonna issue a report? Are you also going to make recommendations about how to cure this cancer?
No, we're just going to get the documents out. I think the recommendations shouldn't be that hard. It's exactly what John Catsimatidis said. Put some people in prison and create a deterrence.
That's right.
That's the key. Because, listen, all the systems are currently fixed by the FBI and the president now, but those people are still sitting in the lurches waiting for the next Democratic president to reactivate. The only thing that will stop them is going to prison, realizing they're going to put handcuffs on you, and you're going to spend a long time next to a guy named Bubba in a jail cell.
They'll get pardoned.
John Solomon from Just the News. When we come back, John Catsimatidis will finally reveal the mystery behind why President Trump posted a picture of his wife Margot yesterday on his True Social account. Stay with us.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
What the heck is the story behind President Trump on his True Social account posting a picture of your wife and our fearless co-leader here at WABC, Margot Catsimatidis, on his site? What's going on here?
Well, it started a very long time ago. And it started, we're talking about Camp David. And Camp David never, ever had a chapel. And under Bush 41, a lot of Greek Orthodox, myself, Father Alex, and a lot of Catholics, a lot of Jews. Give me time, I remember the names. We all got together and we built a chapel at Camp David. And Bush 41, we had a big presentation. We were all at Camp David. We spent some time there. My God, I guess 1991, maybe?
35 years ago.
35 years ago. It was a beautiful chapel. The library at the chapel, Camp David, is named after my daughter, Andrea, AJ. So she had to be born, so it had to be like 91, 92.
Okay.
Camp David is a Navy base. It's beautiful. And we spent, like I said, some time there. And then President Clinton became president. And during our discussions, he found out that we were the ones that built the chapel. And he invited me for a long weekend. And the picture that appeared in the tweet the other day was Margot sitting in one of the Camp David
houses,
and on the phone. And when I found out last week, when I heard that President Trump was going to be in Camp David, because he doesn't go very often, very low. I texted him because we know each other for 40, 50 years, and I sent him. I said, by the way, it's been last time I was there, and I sent a picture, that picture,
right,
and a few other pictures, and then I guess we just happens, and the week before, my daughter was on the list to go to the wrestling match and his birthday party that Sunday night. And somebody had taken her off the list. I guess White House politics. So I had to, I never go to him for anything for myself. I don't want anything. I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I just want to help our country. I just want to help anything I can do to help our country. But for my daughter, you know how fathers are with daughters. And I said to the president, see what you can do. And she went there. She was there. She had a wonderful time. And I know it was going on till 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. And I was amazed how from 1 o'clock in the morning, the president was still up watching and everything. And then he doesn't go to sleep at the White House. He goes right to Air Force One and takes off for
G7.
G7. And the confusion was that when he sent out that tweet was to tell me how good my daughter was or how great my daughter was. And I guess he didn't realize that was a picture of Margot 30 years ago.
Oh, okay. Now we get, oh my
so
goodness.
Margot 30 years ago looks like my daughter.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she still looks like your daughter.
Yes.
Margot looks great.
So that's where the confusion has. I must have had a zillion phone calls from reporters, all kinds of stupid theories and everything. Look, we built the most beautiful chapel in the world. I conversed with a friend of mine for 50 years. And the fact is, I thanked him. I said, thank you for getting my daughter in. And he says, you have a great daughter. Okay? But he sent him the picture, and I guess he didn't realize what picture he was sending. So it's just it's 110% innocent.
Yeah, I mean, of all the things that this could have been, this is the most innocuous I think you could possibly have. Thank
it's
goodness.
the true story.
Yeah, there wasn't anything behind it.
The zillion people that know me know I'm always honest, and I always tell it the way it is.
It was meant to be. Margot was meant to be in the paper. Margot was meant to be, put out there by the president of the United States.
But it's
an innocent. It's an innocent
The
mistake.
president knows Margot for 30 years, 40 years, maybe. We know. It was just purely innocent. We built the most beautiful chapel in the world, and it was Camp David. Is a wonderful place to relax for a long weekend. I think longer than a weekend, I think you could commit suicide. But I remember
that remote, huh?
I remember spending time out there with President Clinton, and I remember the weekend there was that. When I respect him, it was the weekend that he had to bomb. It was Greek Easter, and he had to bomb. What
Bosnia,
or Serbia.
Serbia, yeah. Well, let's, while you're talking, I'll get you the exact date. Okay.
No, it was Easter, Greek Easter Sunday. I remember that. Because we had a long discussion with President Clinton, and it was...
This wasn't in your book. You
I don't know.
mention,
some of it was, maybe some of it was.
Yes, building a chapel in Camp David. I mean, that's a big deal, John.
Well,
that's a big deal.
April 19th, 1999.
Yes.
There we
God.
go.
Wow. My God. Well, let's move on. I mean, that is the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Is that the way you say it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, but this is indicative of another thing though about President Trump. I love how these just non-erudite. This is the nicest thing I can say. People on the left, these no kings rallies and things like that. President Trump, mostly by his own agreement to do so, but also because of the people who are against him, is the most accountable president we've ever had because he can't sneeze. He can't sneeze without him being scrutinized. So if he posts a picture of a friend's wife and said, wonderful daughter, it becomes an international story all of a sudden because everyone has their eyes on him more than any other president before. They're so comfortable pushing back on him. In some ways, this is the greatest example of democracy, and yet he's accused of being anti-democratic. There's never been a more accountable president, for better or for worse.
And there's
ever.
never been a greater pathology against any president.
Oh, I mean, we haven't talked about all morning this ongoing vandalism at the reflecting pool. And by the way, the pathology includes the mainstream media, which keeps putting on, I'm looking at it right now, keeps putting on their banners that President Trump has no proof of any vandalism. There is video all over the place of people wading into the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial, pulling up the liner. I mean, how insane do you have to be to walk into the reflecting pool anyway, but then to damage it on purpose because you hate Donald Trump? I mean, these people are really not well.
There's no security around the pool.
Well,
There's
there is now.
I mean, there are cameras.
The national security. Yeah, I mean, these people are being arrested.
Well, no, these people have been arrested and they'll be prosecuted.
Yeah.
But again, I want to see people go to jail. People in a position that did something wrong to our country. Somebody, I remember the old FBI movies. Somebody has to go to jail.
Yeah.
These people hate Trump more than they love America. It's
Well,
clear as
more
that.
than they love themselves. I mean, by the way, one of the people who they arrested is a guy who was a 2-time member of the U.S. Olympic canoe team. I mean, this is someone who should be enjoying his life. I mean, look, all I can say is we were talking about Barack Obama. I really disliked his presidency. I disliked almost every one of his policies, except for the surge in Afghanistan. I never went to bed at night thinking about Barack Obama, worrying about him, angry about him. I never thought about him personally, and I try to resist any personal analysis of him as a person because I've never met him. So let me give everyone a break here who hates President Trump. And you're not getting any sleep, and you're thinking about wading into national monuments and tearing up and sending yourself to jail for a long time. Get another hobby. You don't like his policies, write a list of all the policies that you don't like, and then use that as a way to get that out of your system and then move on.
You know, people need to be held accountable. People need to go to jail. But the truth of the matter is that the masterminds of these things never go to jail. You know, it's always the underlings. It's always the people that do it for them that go to jail.
They're useful idiots.
You know, so we know that Obama, we know what Obama did for the 2020 elections. I read about it, okay? And I read about it from a source that could only tell the truth, which is General Flynn. But Obama will never go to jail.
No.
You know, we have to face it. As much as you say we want people to go to jail and be held accountable, the people on top will never go to jail.
I mean, and that's the conundrum that we're in, because as John has been saying, somebody has to go to jail for us to learn, but we also know that these big names won't, and so I guess we don't learn, right, Judge? I mean, we're not going to learn.
No, it's a tragedy because we have internal threats, we have external threats. We should be united. It's the 250th anniversary of this great republic. If we're not going to get together for the 250th anniversary and thank God for the creation of this country and the viability of this country, we're in big trouble. There is no guarantee we'll have another 250 years. There's no guarantee we'll have another 50 years. You have to fight every day to protect and defend this country.
You know what? I look at what's happening in Europe, okay, in the UK, in France, you know, where they've been invaded, okay, and they don't have a country anymore. America cannot allow that to happen.
Exactly right.
You know, we need to make sure, and I think that's why President Trump is hated, because he wants to protect America, and there are so many people that don't want him to protect America. Right?
Well, it's
so
foreign
we need
money
to keep America the way it is.
You know, we were talking about this on Friday with Roger Stone. There already is an invasion, and I'm not just talking about illegal migrants and the huge number of suspiciously aged Chinese men and Venezuelan men who came over the border during the Biden era. I mean, that's an invasion too, but also the invasion of foreign money. There's an organization called Act Blue, which is basically is a way for people to donate to Democrat Party candidates and things like that. But they have admitted that they haven't vetted the sources of their money.
It's a conduit for illegal contributions.
It's called money laundering.
It's money laundering. It's a conduit for illegal contributions from overseas.
From enemies.
Yes.
Now, it'd be one thing if you have someone in Germany or even in
but
Iran
who
who wants
the law
to vote
is clear.
for...
No, the law is very, very clear.
You can't do that.
It's not sourced out by their politics. It's foreign money.
Right.
Per se,
Friendly
you
or
can't
not.
have it. Friendly or not.
Friendly or not. But this is unfriendly money.
This
people
is-
like Neville Singham and
This is
George
dedicated,
Soros.
dedicated to a proposition of destroying this country.
Right. And let me give everyone a tip. Do not call George Soros a leftist. He's not a leftist. He has no political ideology whatsoever. He is trying to make a buck off the destruction of the United States. He has a long-term bet against the U.S. dollar. By the way, never bet against the U.S. dollar long-term, but he's got a long-term bet against the U.S. dollar, just like he had against the British pound, which is how he made his billions, because he bet against the British pound in the early 80s, late 70s. And that's all he cares about. He's not in favor of minority rights, gay rights, boys in the girls' bathroom, open. He's not in favor of any of that on an ideological basis, and I don't think this Neville Singham in China is either. They just want America dead.
By the way,
generate
I just get a text from my friend Jose Santa Maria, my ex-banker in Spain.
Yeah.
And he's listening to the show, and he says, and he sends me a story. Somebody's going to jail somewhere. Spain's ex-transport minister sentenced to 24 years for corruption.
And I think the prime minister and his wife are in serious trouble there as well.
So other countries, people go to jail.
Yeah. Listen, Israel had a prime minister go to jail. Ehud Olmert went to jail. I mean, it's not like this doesn't happen in other countries. So I guess other countries can count their votes in one day and put their politicians in jail, and maybe we should do both here. That'd be nice.
I am pleased to know that the first trillionaire in America, Elon Musk, does not like George Soros.
Yeah, and I'm
hoping he's going to go. I'm hoping he's going to spend some money to put this guy to sleep.
Yeah, and I'm even more pleased that the first trillionaire in America is an American citizen. That would be really nice. All right, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, speaking of sending people to jail, maybe Alan Dershowitz can give us some advice about how to do that.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
John Catsimatidis, Judge Richard Weinberg, Fernando Mateo from No Excuses with Fernando Mateo is joining us this morning. So, but he didn't make the ad in the paper.
I didn't make the ad in the paper. I've always wanted to crash this show with Sid, and now we took it over.
Yeah, we got it.
It's a takeover today, John.
Well, it's Cats and Friends this week.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's a takeover.
Next, we'll take over the airports.
But I wasn't in the ad, and that really that was disappointing. I didn't see my picture.
Wait a second. But you plugged his show. What about my show, Let the Record Show?
Let the Record Show, which comes on right after the News Hour Weekend Edition on Sunday. That's my show. It's a back-to-back. It's a takeover.
By the way, some of your people complained that pictures weren't in the paper.
That's true. My two co-hosts,
Eric Levine, complained.
Just one of my two co-hosts, Jesse Garcia, did not complain. Did not complain.
All right.
Listen,
maybe I'll make the next picture.
Listen, it's a blessing in disguise in some ways not to get your picture in the paper.
No kidding.
The phone calls and emails I've been getting from 80 to 85-year-old women have been overwhelming me the last few weeks.
Congratulations. By the way, just to give you the heads up on this school.
Yeah.
Where the kids were supposed to be.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Shot, right.
What's the name of the school, Judge?
It's PS 075 on the west side.
Okay, so we're joined now by Scott Monroe from the Detectives Endowment Association. And Scott, we have issues to talk about, but let's talk about the psyche for a minute. A public school in Manhattan in a very wealthy area put on some play last week where the students depicted being shot by cops. I mean, we can't win with this kind of mentality in the city, can we?
No, that's terrible. You know what? We're out there trying to show the public that every day, the New York City Police Department, that we're not against the public in any type of way. I mean, especially the Detectives Endowment Association, you know, we do everything. We're out there with our canteen. We're out there, feeding families on Thanksgiving and everything else like that. Why would they on earth try to do something like that?
You know, it's also just about the general psyche. I mean, I grew up in I spent my preteen and teen years. I moved to New York in 1981, came back in the late 90s, and being in the NYPD and being in a cop was hot, to say the least. It was so revered. In fact, you might remember in the late 90s, there were all those guys who were over the age to join the NYPD who were petitioning Mayor Giuliani to let them join. That's how much people wanted to be a part of this. And now we have this anti-cop sentiment, even in the wealthier parts of the city. And on top of that, Scott Monroe from the Detectives Endowment Association, we also have a changing nature of crime in the city. When I was growing up in the city, it was property crime, purse snatching, mugging, chains being ripped off. Now it's random mentally ill people who there's nothing you can do. They're just coming and slashing people out of nowhere. We need the police more than ever.
Correct.
No, you need a government that in Albany is going to put these people in mental institutions. They shouldn't be in the streets of New York.
Yes, they're going to have to do something with that. And it just showed we had one of our detectives shot in the leg the other day. It was a barricaded prisoner who was an emotionally disturbed person. He was a real hero along with other detectives there that day. They had a family upstairs, an older family upstairs that barricaded themselves in the room because they were afraid. This individual was shooting at the gas line or the stoves. They went in there to take action. And unfortunately, what happened was he didn't make it. But this is what shows you on these disturbed, emotionally disturbed people. You can't bring civilians there to talk to these people because now you got to worry about them. And unfortunately, we have a detective sitting in a hospital bed right now that got shot in the leg by him.
Judge Weinberg.
Scott, it's good to talk to you again. The problem is you have this either deliberate or naive attempt to change the nature of policing. The job of the police officers are to protect and to defend. Sending in social workers creates the problem as you created because you have to protect them as well. And they're not capable of taking calm and control of the situation, whereas the people who respond are very trained in this. Similarly, they want to take away the critical response groups. Mandami's attempt to do this and he seems to have cooled it, at least for the time being. But the fact of the matter is, how do you take care of the riot situation? Send in social workers, stand down, let people riot, take over Macy's, as de Blasio did?
Well, I think he's starting to see what's really going on. I would love to ask him that question. What do you feel differently than you feel now from 6 months ago or 8 months ago when you were campaigning? I would like to know, do you feel a little bit different about what policing does and what we're going to be doing in New York, how we're going to keep New York safe?
Well, he'll answer you by telling you it's the Jews' fault. I mean, Thursday night, he makes a speech right after the feel-good parade for the Knicks, and he's talking about everyone coming together, and then he makes a speech at a political rally calling people who donate to Israel monsters. I mean, he uses the term monsters right out of Der Stürmer in 1938 from Nazi Germany, and talks about how all they want to do is support genocide. There is no genocide, by the way, in Gaza. It's called mathematics.
There's no apartheid. There's no colonialism. There's no genocide.
Yeah, and it, by the way, insults the true victims of apartheid, genocide, and throughout history of the world. But another thing that really gets me here is the left is supposed to be the big supporters of the unions, the working unions. Well, I got news for you. The Border Patrol agents have a union. The cops have a union. Certain government workers who they've been demonizing. These cops and Border Patrol agents, they're union workers. Where's the respect for them? It's amazing to me. I mean, obviously, this is a big part of your argument, I would assume, Scott.
Yes. Listen, I want to have an open dialogue with the mayor, just like I had an open dialogue with the last mayor, and explain to the mayor basically why we need certain things moving forward. Because you know what? It's about New York City. It's about keeping the people safe in New York City. It's about keeping my detectives, all police officers, safe every day, making sure that they go home to their families. That's what it's all about.
Scott, this is Fernando Mateo. By the way, I have a great deal of respect for all of our NYPD uniformed and detectives because they keep us all safe. And I don't really think that you need to do much explaining to the mayor or much asking from the mayor. Just look at what happened yesterday in Harlem. 4 kids shot. 4 kids. Then you go to the Bronx. There were another 6 or 7 kids stabbed and shot. What happens in the city every day speaks for itself. And who has to come to the rescue? Who has to investigate to find these people, to find the people who committed these crimes? It's our detectives. It's our police officers, right? We need to appreciate them more. There isn't much that you need to explain to the mayor. Just show him the newspapers. Let him read. Let him see for himself.
The mayor, you know what? We had that, the big parade for the Knicks. We had a couple different, we have millions of people there, right? But we only had a couple different problems there. The police commissioner and her staff put everybody out there. They were working long, hard hours. They were working double shifts. These detectives, they're tired. You know what I mean? They're going home to their families. People are going to be retiring, and that's what's very concerning to me. With the governor. I mean, I have a bill that's sitting on her desk right now that I have 1,000 detectives that can retire in July. I only have a little over 5,000. Normally, when I took over 2 years ago, we had about 5,600. Prior to that, we had 7,000 detectives. So we're down with our membership, okay? It's very important that the governor looks at this bill and signs it now. She needs to stop the bleeding right now. Not in October, not in November. We need to stop it now.
Scott,
so if you're concerned about the city, these bills have to get signed, and our members need to continue, and we need to continue to keep our experience here in the Detective Bureau.
Well, Scott, again, I mean, we only have about 30 seconds left, but this is like a blueprint for how to destroy a civilization.
Yep.
Open up the jails, open up the borders, de-emphasize law and order. Look, we all know that it's not that we want the police to run without any oversight, but to get rid of the police absolutely or effectively. They don't have to literally defund the police, but if we have these kinds of depleted numbers of cops on the streets, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I don't
Scott.
blame them for wanting to leave, Scott. I'm sorry. I know we need more detectives, but I don't blame them for wanting to leave.
Quick last word to you, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Hello?
Quick last word to you.
I would just listen, we're here. Our members are out there working day to day. They have families at home just like everybody else. Whether you're a stockbroker or you're a bus driver or whatever, they want to go home to their families and they want to be safe. And that's our job. We have to keep them safe. Not only are we keeping them safe, we're keeping the people of the city of New York safe.
Scott Monroe, the New York Detectives Endowment Association. We're going to take a break. Not too long from now, we're going to hear from John Gruder. We got some big names coming up here on Sid and Friends in the Morning.
Sid and Friends in the Morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's 8:56 here in New York. I'm Jake Novak in for Sid Rosenberg. This is Sid and Friends in the Morning, but it's really Cats and Friends Takeover. We're taking over this territory while Sid is in Israel this week, and we hope that he'll join us at some point during the week and tell us all the stuff that he's doing. But in a few minutes, we're going to be joined by the chairman of the Republican National Committee, the national chairman, Joe Gruders. He's also a state senator from Florida. And, we've got to talk about this midterm election situation. Now, I've seen some more encouraging news for the Republicans in recent days. Harry Enton, who does those polls for CNN and gets very animated, one of the few people worth watching CNN for. He also sits next to me at football games sometimes, too. He talked about how the Democrats have only a national lead in the national ballot of plus 3 points, which for years after a presidential election, 2 years after, is very, for the opposition party, is really bad. That's actually quite a weak number. So I wonder what Joe is going to say about all of that.
But, the CNN poll, which showed that the 29% of the Democrats love America, support America. That's down from about 80% 25 years ago. 90%
in
of
other
Republicans.
words, 1 second. Is it what John Solomon said? Is it pre-Obama? I mean, under Bill Clinton,
yeah, did
Democrats
Obama fuel
loved
this?
America.
Did Obama fuel this anti-American?
So it happened between Bill Clinton and Obama.
25 years ago. So the difference.
No, I mean, how when did Obama get elected?
2008.
2008. So that's 18 years ago.
Yeah.
But look at that. Isn't that number staggering? 90% of Republicans then and 90% of Republicans today support and love America. 80% of Democrats back in 25 years ago loved and supported America. Now it's down to 29%. What does that tell you about the future of this country?
Yeah, I mean, and when we have fancy parts of Manhattan and a public school that people have a hard time getting their kids into because of the districting, having the kids play act being shot by cops.
You have a principal and you have a teacher supporting this. They had signs and posters attacking ICE, attacking the police. This is absolutely reprehensible that this goes on in a public school where our taxpayer dollars support this. They're creating a culture of wokeism, anti-law enforcement, anti-American values in our public schools, and we're paying for it.
And it's our 250th anniversary, and that's another question to ask Joe Gruders, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, when he joins us in a couple of minutes. That's another question to ask him. Is there a way to find a way to use some of the patriotic spirit of this 250th anniversary to get Republicans more involved and more likely to vote in these midterm elections, and maybe more of a message? Maybe they just need to simplify it and make it about, are you in favor? Do you love America or you don't? Because apparently that'll get you 90% of the Republicans to the polls and only 29% of the Democrats to the polls.
Remember the State of the Union address by President Trump, where Democrats would not even stand at various times in terms of supporting America, or the victims of violent crime by unlawful immigrants who should not be in this country. They would not stand to honor them.
I think all American Democrats, that you got to love your country first, then your party.
Well, I don't know what they love. It's just incredible. And by the way, may I ask a question? What does Barack Obama have to hate America about? Because he clearly does. I'm sorry. I know that that's a little bit of mind reading, But
he went from state senator,
organizer, community organizer,
state senator to
U.S.
United
senator,
States, all within like 2.5 years.
And went to a fancy,
president of the United
fancy
States.
high school in Hawaii.
And nobody can explain who paid for his tuition in Columbia, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. First president of the Harvard Law Review never to actually write an article for the Harvard Law Review.
No, listen.
Incredible. And still the only one.
He was a
And a
beneficiary.
Nobel Prize winner
For
before
what?
he became president.
Well,
We're going to take a break and come
quick
back,
break.
or what are we going to do?
And we got Joe Gruters from the Republican
Let's
National
take a
Committee.
break, and then we'll come right back.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
With us today is Joe Gruder. He's the GOP chairman for the whole country, and he's going to give us an update on what the heck is going on. I mean, which way is our country going? And Joe, you're on.
Hey, thanks so much, John. Man, we got an exciting primary tomorrow in New York, which will hopefully set the stage. You know, New York is going to be front and center. We got a couple of big congressional races. There are probably 4 competitive seats. There's only about 18 in the whole country. So you saw the VP was over there on the island last week. He's going to be making a lot more visits. The president's going to be there. But we're excited about our candidates that are emerging, and we're ready to hit these Ds pretty hard.
Well, in how many primaries do we have tomorrow in the United States? You have New York and what? Is it Utah?
That's a good question. The only ones that I'm focused on right now are the ones in New York. They're the biggest ones.
Okay. Oh, good. And what's the important ones in New York tomorrow?
We have New York 3, New York 4, New York 18 with Pat Ryan, New York 19 with Josh Riley, and 4 you have Gillen, and 3 you have Swarzy.
Understood.
Yeah, and so listen, then there's a bunch of other races, but those are the 4 races. Those are the 4 districts, and if you add,
has the president endorsed any of them?
I don't know if the president's endorsed in any of the races yet that I'm aware of. That's why we don't really get involved until there's a primary winner. But once that's announced tomorrow night, or if it's clear there's going to be a winner, we will carry that banner of that candidate, and we'll make sure that we've already engaged staffers. We've sent staffers up. We're going to be there to make sure they have the resources they need and everything else to make sure that we could be competitive, because these seats are critical to us being successful this midterms.
Judge Richard Weinberg?
Senator, good to talk to you again. So this is my problem, and I'm the House Democrat.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's not Senator.
It's Senator and Mr. Chairman.
But he's also a senator. He's also a state senator.
Senator and Mr. Chairman.
The chairman of the GOP for the whole country is higher up than a state senator in Florida.
Excuse me, I love Florida. So let's go focus again on New York, Mr. Chairman. My problem is as a House Democrat, you have Mondami waging war against the traditional common sense Democrats, and he's trying to have a takeover of the Democratic Party by the Democratic Socialists of America. So in my view, that's the big fight that's going on in New York, because the traditional Democrats have to be victorious in this fight. Otherwise, the Democratic Party is going to be lost, which makes it even more important that the Republicans step up and fight hard to win the House seats that they can win. Your thoughts?
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. And what the Democrats have done this cycle is, and it's because of AOC, it's because of Mondami, it's because of Hakeem Jeffries. They've inspired a crop of left-wing radicals to run in these primaries across the country. And they're pulling the Democrat Party all the way to the left, outside of the mainstream. They lack common sense. They lack reasonableness. And it's giving us the matchups that we need. That's why, in these off cycles, it's usually a very tough situation for the incumbent party. But because the left has gotten so radical, people don't want crazy. But that's what the Democrats are giving us: a crazy candidate after crazy candidate, and no alternative in messaging other than the fact that they hate the president.
Joe Gruters, let's be honest here. As a Republican, the RNC chairman, when you look at some of these crazies running in the Democrat primary, more specifically here in New York 12, where we have our Adriano Espaillat, who's a very far leftist guy, incredible opponent of President Trump, but he's the more normal one. He's up against this Daraliza Chevalier, who wants to defund the police, wants to put murderers and rapists back in the housing projects.
Open borders, open borders.
All she does is talk about Israel, by the way, when she's not talking about those things. Secretly, would you like to see some of these crazier people win the Democrat primaries so that it's easier for the Republican Party to make it clear that they're the sane group? I mean, secretly, you're kind of hoping for that?
Yes, of course we're hoping that these radicals continue to win, and they are winning. Look at Plattner in Maine. Look at El Said, what he's doing in Michigan. Look at Talafrico in Texas. We're getting the matchups we want, and as a result, on the Republican side, although we don't get involved with the primaries, what we do is we go out and find the right candidates, and then we take them over to the White House, and if the president likes him and it's a candidate that could win, the president will endorse, and that's like getting a golden ticket. And so we have the favorable matchups this cycle because we've done our work. We're making sure we're bringing in candidates that can win. They're getting the endorsement, which is the golden ticket right to the front. And so, yes, we hope they continue to but it's impossible. The Mondami and AOC, Jeffries, they've convinced this left, they've inspired these left-wing wackadoos all across the country, and it's pulling the Democrat Party further and further to the left.
Mr. Chairman, this is Fernando Mateo, and just so you know, we're very proud to have you as our GOP chairman nationwide. We know that you're not only leading the Republican Party, you're helping shape it. One of the questions that I have for you that, Republicans like myself want an answer is, when are we going to start looking into the Hispanic community? When is the GOP? I mean, you're in Florida, so you understand this probably better than anyone. We need to expand our way of thinking, our conservatism, into the Hispanic community, and we have not done that. What are you going to do to bring that voting bloc over to the Republican Party?
Well, we need to convince them. And look, we have people like Marco Rubio, who I've served with and worked with down here in Florida for a long time, who's a phenomenal member of the administration. We have a lot of other Hispanic leaders. Danny Perez, our Speaker of the House here in Florida, great guy. But here's the bottom line. We have to do a better job of communicating that we are the party of the working man. If you want to be able to achieve the American dream, regardless of what the race you are, you have the ability to do that under the Republican administration. The Democrats have, and listen, at the end of the day, the Democrats and Republicans, elitists in D.C., they've sold out the working American over the last 5 decades. This president's changed that narrative. He's gone to bat for the American worker. Look at the working family tax cuts that he passed. And look at what he did for New York. It quadrupled the SALT deduction. And by the way, every single Democrat in New York voted against that. Every single Democrat in the country voted against that. But yes, we have to we have to show them that the Republican Party, and that our party is the party where if you want to have a better education, if you want to have safe streets, if you want to have a secure border, that's the contrast we need to offer and say, this is what we offer. Decline is a choice. America can be better. Everybody has an opportunity under us, and that's the message we have to get out there.
And the other thing we were talking about the previous hour or so, Mr. Chairman, is under 2008 forward, under President Obama, the Democratic Party has gone to crap. I mean, that's when it really started, and that was our discussion in 2008. And lately, the Socialist Party is taking over the Democratic Party, and it seems like there's nobody in the Democratic Party with courage enough to stop it.
Well, listen, you're going to have the new mayor in D.C. You have Wilson out in Seattle. These guys are Democrat Socialists of America. You're right. They're not your average Democrat. They are socialist, and they want to upend things. And they don't. I still don't understand how you can even get to that point, but they just have a lack of reality and common sense. And we have to do a better job of exposing them for what they are. And because eventually the clock's gonna run out, and somebody's gonna be holding the bag. And so the Republicans are doing a good job of showing that contrast, but we need to continue to fight.
And Mr. Chairman, the one thing the American people should realize, we're Americans first and party loyalty second. And that's the most important thing. And under the Republican Party right now, 90% of the American people are proud of America. And what happened in the Democratic Party? Who has the numbers?
29%.
29%.
But it went from 80% or 90% in the pre-Obama to 29%. What does the Democratic Party stand for? And I want all our listeners out there. We may have 1 million listeners right now to understand that. We got to. We need common sense.
Yes, it's not just Trump derangement syndrome. It's America derangement syndrome. They want America to fail. They want chaos. It doesn't make any sense. That's why there's...
And President Biden helped by bringing in an extra 10 million migrants.
20 million.
20. Well, who knows what it was? No, the truth is, nobody really knows what the number is.
Well,
we trying to fundamentally change the country by changing the makeup of the country, and that's the only way they think they can retain power. It's a terrible situation, but yes, we're putting a stop to it, and I'm glad that we're cracking down on it.
President Trump is the only person with the courage to put a stop to it. And look what's happening in Europe. In Europe, my God, I mean, France has been invaded. Germany has been invaded. Finally, they realized in the UK that they were being invaded. And it took President Trump, along with King Charles, to bring back Europe and force this socialist in the UK to resign today.
I think that Obama's leading the charge here with all of the things that are going on here in the United States.
Biden doesn't know he was alive.
Obama was really the president during Biden's administration.
His third term.
But Obama came to New York to endorse Mondami. He is leading that whole socialist movement undercurrent.
You got to remember, who is Obama? We never really found out who Obama was. He went from community organizer
to state senator to U.S. senator to president of the United States overnight.
Joe Bruder's chairman of the Republican National Committee with us. You mentioned earlier Graham Plattner, and I need to ask you a serious question here because this to me is very, very basic. Are the Republicans, both in the leadership and in the rank and file, prepared to make Graham Plattner the millstone around the Democrats' neck that he should be? You talk to Democrats today, and all they'll say is, Russia, January 6th, Russia, January 6th. Graham Plattner needs to be our knee-jerk response to any challenge to Republicans for generations to come that the Democrats willingly endorsed and promoted not only someone with a Nazi tattoo. It's not just a Nazi tattoo. It's the SS tattoo of the SS unit that murdered my great-grandmother and her family, okay? That's who he's wearing, and who has abused women. And they're saying now Ro Khanna, the congressman, Democrat from Cal, is admitting that it must be true, but he's still supporting him. Are you prepared? Because honestly, if you're not prepared to make Graham Plattner on steroids, the same thing that the Democrats made January 6th, which is phony, and Russia, which is phony. If you're not prepared to do that, then I don't know if you're bringing bricks to a gunfight.
No, listen, you're exactly right, and of course we're going to put them front and center. There's so much stuff on Plattner that it's almost unbelievable. The guy is discussing he shouldn't be their nominee, but what's more sickening than him being the nominee is the fact that 74% of the Democrats that knew about all this voted for him in the primary just 2 weeks ago. That's a bigger problem that we have in America, that they're willing to accept this, that they're willing to accept a no Nazi. He only changed that tattoo once it became a campaign issue. All these reports of abuse, all this other crazy nonsense. The guy is, in my area, you couldn't get elected dog catcher. He would have been walked out of the offices a long time ago. But the fact that he is now a U.S. Senate nominee and is still polling, even with Susan Collins, it just goes to show you how far from reality the Democrats are.
One more thing before we go off, because we've been on for almost 20 minutes. I mean, the fact is, if we don't straighten out this voting in the United States of America, we're going to have a problem. It's got to be. It's a federal election. It's got to be United States citizens only, and and you need ID.
Yeah, 100%. We need the Save America Act. We need more MAGA warriors. We're gonna have that in this next cycle. We're going to return the majorities for the president to make sure we can pass the Save America Act and other things. I always say, look at Florida. We have a state of 23 million people. We can deliver results within 90 minutes with Republican and Democrat supervisor of elections. Everybody's happy. You should have full faith and confidence in the system. When the president asked me to do this job 9-10 months ago, he said, Joe, we didn't make sure our elections are safe and secure, and, you got to do it. And so we have 150 lawsuits. People say, what do you do? What do you spend your money on? I sue. We're dropping the hammer everywhere from coast to coast to make sure that we can make sure our elections are safe and secure.
Joe Gruters, thank you so much. Sorry to...
We're out of time, but we want you again, on WABC, because you got to get the truth out. Thank you so much.
Alan Dershowitz, when we come back.
Thank you.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Joining us right now is the great legal scholar, Alan Dershowitz. And Professor Dershowitz, I have to play you this sound from Zohran Mamdani on Thursday night, just hours after he celebrated the Knicks victory, while he's still wearing a Knicks jersey under his jacket. He has this to say, and it sounds like it's right out of Der Stürmer in 1938. Listen to this, Alan.
Misleading and bad faith attacks about Claire, Brad, and Dari. Those who would rather spend far more on political contributions than they would ever be made to pay in taxes. In AIPAC, for whom the only thing more frightening than democracy being allowed to run its course is an end to genocide and Netanyahu's wars.
And before that, Professor Dershowitz, he referred to them as monsters. Josh Gottheimer, the only Democrat, I think, right now who is elected Democrat who has castigated Zohran Mamdani for this old blood libel stuff. I mean, this is even for Mamdani, this was a step further than he's done before.
Well, a step further than he's done before publicly, but privately, he probably espouses all the Goebbels, Der Stürmer anti-Semitic tropes that we've heard about for so many years. Remember, AIPAC is not an Israeli organization. It is an American organization comprised largely of American Jews who are citizens of this country, and he's calling them monsters. He's not calling Israelis monsters. That would be bad enough. He's calling his fellow American citizens monsters. Look, Mamdani is a virulent anti-Semite, Jew hater, and a man who gets 20-30% of the Jewish vote, who has people like Brad Lander, who's a self-hating Jew hater, and who he endorses against Goldman, who's a moderate, centrist, sometimes critical of Israel, Democratic politician. Mamdani is a 1932 Nazi clone. Remember, in 1932, the Nazis weren't calling for the death of Jews. They were just saying maybe there are too many Jews here and too many Jews there, too much influence, too much power. And so what we're hearing is a similar approach from Mamdani to what Nazis were saying in 1932. Mamdani is one of the most dangerous people in America today because he has a following. As I've always said, if Hitler ever came to America, he wouldn't be, have that mustache. He wouldn't be a German. He'd be an American guy who people like. And Mamdani is, somewhat charming. And what I said when he got elected is people were afraid he would ruin New York City. My great fear was he would not ruin New York City, that he would do a good job in helping the economy of New York, the way Hitler did in 1932. Hitler helped Germany between 1932 and 1934, and only after he then got a lot of people on his side because he was good for the economy did he then begin to really focus on the anti-Jewish laws, ultimately leading to Kristallnacht and then to the Holocaust.
Well,
So
I have good news for you.
I think
he hasn't helped the economy here in New York. As Fernando Mateo is with us, he's been very hostile to the business owners. I mean, thank goodness for that, right? I mean, I'm not really thanking him for that, but don't worry.
He'd be reelected today. If he were running again today, he would be reelected. His true colors have not shown, just like Hitler's true colors did not shine. And so what I worry about is that he is, the other day his true colors came out when he called AIPAC, an American Jewish organization, monsters. So, but his true colors rarely come out. He charmed Donald Trump in the White House. I mean, he has this ability to charm people, just the way Hitler charmed Chamberlain. Hitler charmed Joseph Kennedy. Hitler charmed so many people. And I'm afraid Mandami has that same talent, which makes him even more dangerous.
Well, let's go to Professor John Catsimatidis. Let's go to the bigger problem. And it all started with John Solomon this morning. And Jake, your statistics and you know everything. And the problem with the Democratic Party started in 2008 when President Obama became president. And the Democratic Party has gone from 80% under Bill Clinton, etc., from 80% loving America down to 29%. What the heck is going on?
I agree with you. Look, I fell for Obama. He was my student. I knew him when he was at Harvard. He's charming. I liked him. I voted for him the first time. He invited me to the Oval Office repeatedly. He invited me to the dinner in which he gave the former president of Israel, Shimon Peres, the Medal of Freedom, all of that. And then came his second term, and his true colors came out. He called the Kotel, the Western Wall, which is like the Vatican, like the Mormon center, the holiest place of Judaism. He called it illegally occupied territory. And did some terrible, terrible things in his last days. But I agree with you. I think he was the beginning of the end. Look, I wrote a column the other day in which I say Joe Biden may have been the last pro-Israel Democratic candidate in American history. The Democratic Party has become a vicious anti-Israel party, with exceptions, as you say, Gottheimer and Fetterman and a few others. But even the moderates, the Josh Shapiros, the others are turning against Israel in a lot of different ways, because today it's good politics to be anti-Israel. And I think you're absolutely right. I think Obama is the one who caused that change. Clinton was really the last strongly pro-Israel president, and he still says, most recently, that the Palestinians deserve what they've gotten. They could have had a state in 2000, 2001. They were offered 96% of the West Bank, the entire Gaza Strip, and 4% of what is now Israel, and they turned it down. And as Clinton said, you don't get that offer again once you've turned it down. And so what happened after that is they turned to violence, they turned to lying, but they have mastered public relations, and they have become the most dominant force on college campuses today. Today, anti-Israel, pro-Palestinianism is the dominant force on college and university campuses.
Now, it all happened in 2008 when President Obama became president. And the next thing he did, I mean, he went from, we were talking about it, he went from community organizer to state senator to United States senator to president in 2.5, 3 years. Can that really happen, or was there help? Was there help behind the scenes? I'm only asking, not your professional opinion, your gut feeling.
My gut feeling is you're absolutely right that Obama was the beginning of the end for support for Israel among Democrats, and now he's become an architect, building his museum. In
somebody
Chicago,
create? Did somebody, if you know him that long of a period of time, did somebody create Barack Obama?
Who knows? Who knows? Remember, the same thing was happening all over Europe. People were moving away from Israel. Spain has become one of the worst anti-Israel places. Look, I was watching soccer yesterday. I had to decide whether to root for Iran or Belgium. That would be easy. I couldn't root for Belgium. Belgium has become a viciously anti-Semitic place. They now want to ban kosher slaughter. Mm-hmm. They want to ban circumcision of Jewish children. They have become a vicious anti-Semitic. Europe is turning into what it was in the 1930s, and that's why Israel must maintain its own strength, its own independence. We who support Israel and America should be trying our best within the Republican Party to keep the Republican Party strong for Israel. And, there's a problem there, too, with Tucker Carlson. But it's very important. But Israel has to maintain its own independence militarily and in every way, because it can't count on the support of third countries, of other countries. It's just not true. It can't count on the kindness of strangers. Jews made that mistake early on in their history by counting on others, and then they built Israel, and they have the strongest Navy, the strongest Army, the strongest nuclear program. They don't admit the nuclear program, but they have it, and they have to defend themselves, and they're doing a great job, but they shouldn't compromise their security to please anybody in the Democrat or Republican Party.
Judge.
Alan, good to talk to you. I'll tell you, there's another trend that concerns me greatly, and that's the trend of the left-wing Democrats. They call it court reform. Fundamentally, what they want to do is they want to pack the Supreme Court of the United States.
They don't deny that. They say they want to pack. They want 4 justices shortly, as soon as they get elected to office, and they will shift the majority. They want.
And what's the danger? Please explain to our listeners why that's such a dangerous phenomena if they politicize the Supreme Court that way.
Because then the next people who come in will add 4 more justices, and then they'll add 4 more justices. You'll have to move the Supreme Court to Met Stadium. There's no end to this. If anybody can add justices for political partisan purposes, then the Supreme Court ceases to be a political...
Becomes a legislative body.
It becomes a legislative body. And by the way, before I forget, I got a lovely picture this morning of Sid with President Herzog of Israel together. And, both President Herzog and Sid are good friends of mine, so I was thrilled. And I posted the picture. I know Sid is having a great time. I spoke to him the other day. And I'm hoping he's having an influence in Israel because people there respect him and listen to him. The person who's lost a lot of respect in Israel, unfortunately, recently has been Donald Trump, because and Vance, because there's a fear among some that their interests in protecting Israel have diminished. I hope that's not true. I still think we have a chance of making the deal better than it is in the MOU. The MOU itself is very vague and very ambiguous, but if the deal itself is a lot stronger, it could end up being better than the Obama deal. If it ends up being no better than the Obama deal, then it's a big loss and a great danger. And by the way, Israel should not accept orders from the United States to leave Lebanon.
Absolutely,
leave Lebanon. If Hezbollah stops firing, but even Vice President Vance, when he condemned Israel for firing on Hezbollah, he forgot to mention that Hezbollah has been firing on Israel and keeping people out of their homes, out of their schools, out of their hospitals. Basically, Hezbollah has occupied the north of Israel. You can occupy a country without sending troops. If you send drones and rockets and make everybody leave their homes, that's a form of occupation. So, Hezbollah is occupying part of Israel, and Israel is occupying part of Hezbollah militarily. That's a standoff, and there's nothing wrong with Israel maintaining security control over the areas from which the drones are sent. That's typical military action, and that's exactly what the United States would do in a comparable situation.
Professor, you're 110%. Israel has to do what's good for Israel. And I agree about Lebanon. You cannot allow those terrorists to be in Lebanon. It's not good for the Lebanese people. It's not good for the Israeli people. The United States, Donald Trump has to do what's best for the United States of America. And what's best for the United States of America right now is to make sure that November goes in the right direction. Otherwise, the whole world loses.
Look, the United States and Israel have so much in common. I have a book coming out for July 4th. It's actually going to be published this week. It's called Founding Fathers and One Jewish Mother. a Jewish mother being Golda Meir, and it compares the founding of America, Hamilton, Madison, Washington, with the founders of Israel, Ben Gurion and Herzl, and it shows the amazing comparisons between the two countries, and it uses my own documents.
Well, we'd love to give you a book. We'd love to give you, WABC would love to give you a book party and bring all your friends.
That'd be great. I don't have very many friends on Martha's Vineyard, but I have
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, Alan. This is Fernando Mateo. This is Fernando Mateo.
He's invading Martha's Vineyard.
No, you have many friends at Martha's Vineyard, including Jim Ferraro, who you know is your good friend.
Right. Jim's a good friend.
And he is my son-in-law, and you know that he loves you.
And I love him.
And
He's
Professor
fantastic.
Dershowitz, you're warming my heart because your book is exactly. I wrote a speech for the then Israeli Consul General Asaf Samir for July 4th, 2022, with exactly that, doing these parallels between our founding fathers and their founding fathers and mothers. He didn't read it. He wouldn't do it. So thank God you wrote the book.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
9:51 a.m. Eastern Time here in New York.
Are we only on for 8 more minutes? I could have worked for another 2 hours.
I know, we could have, honestly, it feels like, by the way, the 4 hours goes by quickly. It does go by quickly.
Especially when you get excited about telling the truth and letting the truth out.
When you're having fun, time goes by fast. And we had
Fernando,
fun today.
Are you working this week or are you taking the rest of the week off?
No, you know what? Listen,
I just want to know. I mean,
John, you don't put my picture in the paper. I don't have a picture in the lobby.
I'll put your picture in the paper if you're coming.
Well, I'll come. When do you want me to come all week? I'll come all week.
By the way, he looks great right now.
I'll put the paper out.
Put the paper out.
But, before we came back from the break, we were talking about something, which is, we were asking this question, why are the Democrats becoming so anti-American? Why have they become so radicalized? And I think it's really important for people to understand, from George Soros all the way down to unfortunately, a lot of Democrat voters, they're not leftists. It's really a misnomer. It's not about liberalism or they have a different theory about how to make America better. I think that these are people who are now enemies of America.
Well, why are they here? Why are they here?
They're physically, because of open borders. That's the physical answer.
Obama and Biden let them in.
And ideologically, they let them in. You had President Obama, for all of his fancy rhetoric.
No, he was alive.
Biden didn't run the country.
Exactly right. Obama's third term.
Biden, listen, I'm not going to blame President Biden. He didn't know he was alive.
He didn't. And Kamala didn't help him.
And his wife is
she knew it.
She knew it. Doing what she did.
She knew it.
And also leaving him stranded on Thursday at the Obama Library event.
He got lost in there, I heard.
Honestly, I think all of us listening know of a member of our family or extended family who needs special care. And for her to walk away from her husband like that, that was a scary moment.
Listen, she's more interested in being on the cover of Vanity Fair and being a celebrity.
That's all she cared about.
Being a celebrity.
Listen, but I know President Biden for 40 years too, and that was not President Biden.
It wasn't. He was a very elegant, very eloquent person when he was Biden, the senator.
And energetic. He was always very blustery. I loved how people said, well, there's no evidence. Listen, I've been following, I don't know Joe Biden personally like you did, John, but I've followed Joe Biden very closely in the news for 40 years. And I know the day exactly when I realized he wasn't all there anymore. It was 2019 at the Iowa State Fair when he was now formally running for president. Very, very hot day. First day, he was very energetic, lying about the very fine people hoax and the whole thing, but he was still energetic. The next day, he was in a daze. And I said to myself, this guy, he's got to drop out.
Obama put him there. Obama put him there so that he can be the president for the third term. And that's what happened. If you don't love America, why are you here? Get out. Go where you feel comfortable.
To commit vandalism, commit political and literal vandalism, Fernando. That's what's going on.
I want to say something today. You're 100% right, but we lost a good friend yesterday. The congressman in New Jersey, Frank Guarini, 101 years old, he passed away.
Wow.
And the story I used to tell, me and Frank were good friends for a long time, was a member of the Italian community, and he was one great guy. We were in Cuba together. We were with Castro together. He was a good friend of Bill Fugazi's. John,
why don't you tell the people why you were in Cuba with Castro?
Yes,
What
please.
did you do?
Yes.
Well, we were on the first trip. We were on on a congressional
mission.
Charlie Rangel led it. Exploring. And we met with Castro, and David Dinkins was on it, and I was there, and we took our airplane. And the second time in Cuba, we built the Greek Orthodox Church in Havana, and Castro paid for it because King Constantine said to Fidel Castro, "You destroyed my church when you were taking over Cuba." So Castro says, "I destroyed your church?" And he says, "I'll build you a new one." So he built a new Greek Orthodox church that served all the Greeks and the Russian Orthodox. And we were there in the 90s. 92, 93 to what's the words about consecrate the church? And the patriarch from Constantinople came in.
Wow.
And the archbishop from New York came in, and we had 2,000 people in Havana to consecrate the church. And King Constantine was there. His son, Pavlu, and his other sons were there. And I was in the church. It's a small church, maybe room for 100 people. And the important thing is, there's a picture. And the photographer still can't find it, but I was there. At a certain point, the patriarch, who's on equal level in Christianity, put a cross around Castro.
Wow.
And he accepted it. And people say, "But he's a communist. He accepted it." And I said, and you know what my comment was? Which is true. It's like this is like the Camp David thing. Someday somebody will be criticized. I said, the closer to 90 years old you get, the more religion you get. Which is true.
It's very true. Whenever you feel sick or anything, first thing you do is you go to church.
Yeah.
You make the sign of the cross when you get on a plane.
And I was going to say, don't forget, you don't have to be 90 to get on a plane.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you for the show. This was a great show today, and Judge Weinberg, thank you for being here. And
see you tomorrow. See you next day. See you next day. See you next day.
Before the New York Post article, you got to confirm if you're coming or not coming.
I am coming. I will be here.
Okay.
I've always wanted to crash the Sid show.
Okay.
Now I'm taking it over.
All right, and get ready for the 80-year-old ladies.
The airport is next.
Jake Novak is here. I'll be here, and we'll be here most of the week. And who knows when Sydney comes back. And it is what it is. And you're going opposite one of your nemesis on another channel. I'm not going to even mention his name.
Listen, please don't talk about the hater and the loser. Listen, it was an honor to be here today. John, I had a great time. I will see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Okay, I'll be sitting at the same chair.
That's right.
The judge maybe
he took my chair.
No,
he took my chair.
No, I was
took my chair.
I was placed here. I was actually sitting there, and they told me to move over
that's
here.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Listen, I'll defer to you
I
anytime.
said, that's the judge's seat. He says, no, it's your seat today.
All right,
But
we got to say goodbye.
We deliver the truth,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of fun. And what do we say at 5 o'clock?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.